Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Spaced Out Radio as we kick off a brand new week tonight, hanging on out and enjoying the beautiful smoke that's outside, absolutely killing my lungs right now. So if you hear me coughing tonight, it's because in my area where the big forest fire is, they've done a big back burn on it, and literally we're going to be smoky for a couple of days, and I'm going to be honest with you, it sucks breathing right now. Breathing really, really sucks, but they need to do it. They are doing it, and that's the way it's going to be. All right. Hey, everybody, let's give a rundown before we bring in the man, the myth, and the cranky old legend, Butch Witkowski. Race fan takes home the gold medal tonight. The gorgeous Jenny Metz with a silver, and the lovely and talented Emily Bigelow, otherwise known as Alaska's greatest athlete, takes home the bronze. Gorgeous Aussie Ange, how are you? Big Rob, nice to see you back. Sultry Susie, good to have you here. Grand Paul Holland, how are you, my friend? Nice to have you back. The lovely Steph Dickey has returned. Mark Rademacher, how are you? Andrew, how you doing, buddy? How's the driving going? SJ, good to see you. Thanks for coming on in. Nicola, what's happening, man? Nice to have you back. As we scroll on down, and now I got to scroll on up, we have 509ers, Snakes on a UFO. The lovely and talented Jamie Lynn Ricketts has returned, everyone. IFVGBE, nice to see you. Lovely Lauren, welcome back. And let's see who else we got here. We got Little Marky Spender, a.k.a. Timber Hunter. Hi, Baxter. How you doing, Baxter? Good to see you, buddy. And the lovely Minister Elaine has returned. Beef Stew, Mama Susan, how are you? Double Tim, Bigfoot, Michigan Rob, always a pleasure to have you here, buddy. Ross Lambda, good to see you. Thanks for coming on in. Ozzy, oi, oi to you, my friend. And we scroll on down. And just keep scrolling. Chad Smith is here, everyone. Yep, Chad Smith will be signing autographs after the show. Line up to the right of the studio, if you don't mind. To the right of the studio. Travis DeLuca, good to have you here. The gorgeous Jessica McCreary has returned, everyone. There she is. Gabe Roca is here. He'll be signing autographs after the show. Line up to the left of the studio for Gabe. All right, moving on. Bombshell Bomber. The Wheat Queen has returned. The pride of Brandon, Manitoba. Gorgeous. Manitoba Becky has arrived. 5900, good to see you. Thanks for coming on in. The lovely and talented Heidi has returned. Nate Foot, how you doing, brother? Good to see you. Thank you for joining us. John Doe, nice to have you here. Davey Crotch, how are you, man? Good to have you back. Project Blue Book, Ed Clater, nice to have you guys here. Spookles the gorgeous cat. There she is, everyone. Spookles the gorgeous cat. We love her around here. Yes, we do. Jim Morris is here. The Jim Morris. Awesome Annie Svensson. The lovely and talented Pam McSee has returned. Hi, Sandra. Hi, Sandra. Hi, Sandra. The Wizard Gren, where have you been hiding? Wow, you're back. Nice to have you here. Chico from Phoenix, how you doing? Thank you for joining us. Michael Haywood, good to have you here. And let's see, who else has joined us? Rich Hilke's here, everyone. Michael Haywood, nice to see you. The lovely and talented Jenny is back. Nice to have you here. Anthony, nice to see you again. And Dennis Zuniga, what's happening? Sylvia and James Delaney have returned. Yeah, let's give them a wave. They are the power couple of the paranormal right there. It's amazing that they're in our room. Fabster, nice to see you here. Says, yes, I need some Butch. Oh, yeah, we all need some Butch. Michael Lastuca, what's happening, man? And I know the fires are killing me too, man. The fires are killing me too. But they're getting a handle on it. They're getting a handle on it. Sherry Knight looking lovely tonight. And let's see if I missed anybody here. I think I may have. Jack Clark, good to see you. Joe Ortegon, nice to have you back. Joshua Taylor, good to see you. Excalibur, good to have you here. And now I think I'm caught up. Now I'm thinking, Chief, what's happening on Twitch? Do I believe Jeremy Corbell? I think Jeremy believes his sources. The gorgeous Michelle C. from Australia, good to see you. And let's see here. Did I miss anybody? No, I haven't. Yes, Butch Witkowski tonight, which means, hey, 416, how are you, buddy? Which means we're going to get into everything weird, strange, supernatural, paranormal. just the way Butch likes it. And you know what? We'll see what we can do to fire him up tonight. Your questions in hour number 2. Don't forget that a great way to support this show is through the Super Chat. And if you're new, don't forget to hit that subscribe button, ring that bell, because we are live 7 days a week at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern time. So make sure you check it on out. And we love you. Here we go. Let's rock and roll right now. From the mountains of central British Columbia to you listening around the world, this, my friends, is Spaced Out Radio. I am your host, Dave Scott, sitting in the captain's chair of SOR headquarters. We welcome you to tonight's show on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on TalkStream Live, Revolution Radio, at KPNL. All of our archives are free by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. You can follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to Bumblefoot and reading up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire. Tonight's show is brought to you by Chive Charities. Help make the world 10% happier by visiting Chive Charities today. You can find them on our website. Oh, he is back. He is back. The Butch is back. Yes, Butch Witkowski joins us at the end of each month to talk about the month that was in the weird and strange. Butch is no stranger to this show as he comes on and discusses everything from Dogman to ghosts, UFOs, paranormal, you name it. Butch has investigated it. His team, UFO Cop, is based out of the state of Pennsylvania. A former police officer, Butch now uses those techniques to try and find the mysteries and to try and even harder process in solving those mysteries. Butch Witkowski, good to have you back on Spaced Out Radio, my friend. Thank you so much for joining us.
My pleasure, sir.
What's been happening the last month?
A lot of crazy stuff. Some UFO sightings. I'm getting a lot of historical sightings out of California. I have no idea why. Usually when you get a historical sighting, it's right after you've posted something about sighting here in Pennsylvania or close by. But I had like 3 from California. One was 30 years old, and from a lady that said, 30 years ago, she saw a triangle in the sky, and she and a friend watched it for a good 15, 20 minutes. So she said, these things are supposed to be just new, or not new. She said, 30 years ago, that's what we saw. And we're still working on an unknown whatever it is. We don't know yet. We don't know if it's a bipedal, if it's some type of entity running around in a state park. We have the place loaded with camera traps. I mean, I got 8 of them down there. On the first try, the first week we put them out, I got a shadow on the one in an area that I really didn't have the cameras facing that particular area, but a portion of that shot, one camera caught and a shadow walked across in front of it. And very large, but a shadow. So, you can't really enhance a shadow. I mean, there was no rhyme or reason to what it looked like other than I knew the area because I used to hunt in that area. So I was aware of that old farm and the foundation that was left. So when I went down the second time to pull the camera information and put new cards in, I stood by that camera and looked, and I thought, well, you know what? If it came down through this old, pretty large area of a foundation, which probably was either the house or the barn. So I put 2 cameras there, and I had them on black and white. One was on black and white, one was on color. And then the following week after that, I thought, well, I'm going to just keep those 2 cameras and turn them on to infrared. So they've been working infrared for the last week and a half, 2 weeks. So I'll get down there sometime this week, probably, and pull the cards and see if we got anything. Just strange, because there's been a lot of reports in that area of weird stuff in the woods. Nothing like Bigfoot, though. It was just like humanoid looking, very pale, skinned. I would say they were probably describing what most people call a rake. It was shot at twice, but that took place right outside the park, because you're not allowed to carry guns in the park. But anyway, so that we got going on. Just got done getting ready and mapping out for our next excursion, which will be probably up in the Clearfield County area, Pennsylvania, and ready to get cranking.
For you, as you continue on with these experiments and these studies into these areas that you were going to, Butch, normally when you're on, we talk about the bipedal canine, we talk a lot about cryptids, but you also get a lot of strange cases out there that just make absolutely no sense. When something comes across your table or your desk or your phone line from a potential client who has had something that you've never heard of before, what goes through your mind? Take me through a case like that.
First thing goes through my mind is, why me? I've never really delved into the paranormal end of all this, and innocently and without anything in mind, I contacted a local outfit that had been at it now for 30 years, 25, 30 years. They're actually an incorporated business, and they basically stay in Pennsylvania. And I just asked them if I could tag along in one of their investigations, just to see how they do it. I mean, I had no idea what cameras they use or what type of equipment they used or how they set up or what they did when they got on scene. So went along on one of their excursions, and we went to an old foundry which was converted by the county into like a museum. But the original foundry was there to make cannonballs for the Revolutionary War and into the Civil War. And there was a lot of Indian activity in that area. There's a lot of burial mounds. So like I said, I basically just tagged along. So we got to where we were going to set up, and there was an old a well, very large, and I'm assuming that the foundry used a lot of water. And they had gotten reports of voices in the field. Now, behind the foundry is the field. That's where the well was. But this field is huge. I mean, it's just huge. I wouldn't even venture on a size other than it's got to be well over 10 acres, and then it butts up against a mountain. So you get to the end of the field, and there's a mountain, goes straight up. And he said the historical value is that there were a number of Indian tribe against Indian tribe battles that were fought on that particular piece of land over the past years. So, they set up a little bit of equipment, voice recording equipment, and then they explained to me that they were going to take a flashlight and put a flashlight on top of the well, and then they were going to ask questions and have the light turn on and off to answer yes or no on the questions. And I thought to myself, okay, here we go.
Now you're getting into some woo here.
Yeah, we're getting into woo. And so they put the flashlight up. It was just a little 2-cell. They put it up there. But what I did notice is right before the guy put it up, he was like messing around just to where the light would go on, and then when it would go off, that's when he placed it down. I thought, okay. Because those lights, just waving them will turn them on. So he starts asking questions. Is there anybody here? If there is, turn the light on. No light would go on. Then he asked another couple questions like, were you an Indian? Were you involved in a battle? Blah, 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 blah. Were you wounded? Were you killed? And the light was going on and off, not really on the money. So, at this point, I'm like, you know what? I think I just wasted an evening. Maybe I'll stop at a restaurant and have some supper or something like that just to get out of here. And then I thought to myself, no, wait a minute. I said, can we use my flashlight? And he says, sure. I said, now, you don't have to turn this on. This has a button on it, and it's a very high lumen LED. So it's one time on low, push it again, it's on a medium, push it again, it's on high, and then push it again, it's on strobe, push it again, it goes off. So it was off. I checked it, make sure everything worked, and turned it off. And I said, put my flashlight up there and ask those questions. So he did. He put the light up there and he said, were you wounded or killed here? If so, during the battle, if so, turn on the light. Light went on. There was no way that anybody could touch that light. And there was no way that light was going on without pushing that button. And then he said, were there many Indians killed between the two tribes? Light on, yes. Light off, no. And first he turned the light off, and then he answered the question by turning the light back on. And this went on for about half an hour, and it was right on the money every time. And it was my flashlight. There was no way you were going to fool with the flashlight. You weren't going to turn anything or do anything like that. You had to push the button to turn it on. So I said, does this happen often? He says, well, we never really used any other type of flashlight. And I said, well, it's not that I don't believe what you were using was a good tool, but those little stream lights, they're noted for being very, very touchy. I mean, just an itty bitty little twist can turn them off. And I said, it could be just a vibration from your voice because you're standing right aside of it and you're leaning on that well. I mean, are you moving the brick that's causing it to go on and off? He doesn't know. But anyway, that was weird. That was exceptionally weird. So about a month and a half went by, and they called me and they said they have another case. Would I like to go on it? And I went like, yeah, okay. And this was going to be much better for me because they were going to be in a residence. They were going to be setting up all kind of cameras and microphones, and there were enough people on the team that there was going to be at a minimum one person in each room of this large house. So I got relegated to not wanting to be a fifth wheel. I said, how about if I just sit here and watch the monitor? They said, that's exactly what we would like you to do. So they have a 28-inch monitor, and it was split into 8 screens. And very clear, everything was, I mean, I could see everybody in every room. I could, the way they had them set up, everything was fine. The people were there when we got there. They introduced everybody. They walked through the house, and the people were telling them what was going on. And so the people left. They went up 2 blocks up the street to their sister's house. But the one sister stayed over in case we needed to use a bathroom or we needed to know something about the house. So she was sitting beside of me. So I thought, oh, this is pretty good. I just get to sit here and, pretty much doze off. And everybody had a radio. We had a radio. And they would check in. I'm up and running in room number 1, and they had a little diagram there. We were in the kitchen, and the kitchen led into a dining room, which automatically went into a large living room. So there was no wall. It was just out of the kitchen, through the doorway, and you went through the dining room, and you were in the living room. When the folks were still there, the lady was moving some stuff around so they could place a camera in the corner. And the little guy, he couldn't have been 4 or 5 years old. He comes over, and he's got this big box in his hand. And he said, Mom, can I open it? Can I open it? And she said, because it was right around Christmas, right after Christmas. And she said, no. When we unpack everything, we get everything away. We can, stuff that isn't open, we can go through all together and blah, 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 blah. So the kid was satisfied with that. So I watched her take this thing and put it on a rocking chair, a regular old wooden rocking chair. And I looked at her, I said, so what exactly is that? Because all it had was this big heart in the middle of the box and a doll. And she pushed on the heart, and in a little girl's tiny little voice, it said, will you play with me? Will you be my friend? Like 4 or 5, 6 different things. And that's it. And then the light goes out, and the doll shuts up, and the doll's sitting there. So one of the other problems with the house was that up in the master bedroom, which was actually on the 3rd floor, you're probably familiar with these lights where, I don't mean the time you clap and they turn on. You push a button and you get a real low light. You push it again, you get like a medium grade light. And you push another one on, it's high. Push another one, it's off. So the husband and wife were saying the light would go on by itself, and he said, "There's no way it goes on by itself. Okay, you got to push the button." But he said, like almost at between 2 and 3 every morning, this light would go on, and I went like, "Okay, here we go." And he said he was just adamant about it. He said, "I've changed bulbs." He said, "I even took that light back to Home Depot and bought another one and put that in. It does the same thing." I said, "You had the electric check. Maybe maybe there's a bad circuit." "No, we had an electrician look at that. Everything's fine." Because it was his grandmother's. It was her grandmother's house that she passed away, and they got the house in the will. So the house was pretty much kept up to date. So I'm downstairs, and the girl inside of me gives me a shot and says, "The light just went on." Now, they were in that room, but they had stepped off into I think it was a dressing room to position a camera. And I got on the radio and I said, "A light just went on in the bedroom." And they're not in the bedroom. There's nobody in the bedroom. So he looks in, the light's on. So he goes over and he goes through and shuts it off. He walks back out, and light goes on again. And he comes over to the radio and he says, "What are you drinking?" I said, "Nothing. Why?" He said, "The light just went on again." I said, "Yeah, I just said that." He says, and he reaches down and he pulls the cord up. He didn't have it plugged in. He pulled the plug. And I went, that's not good. He said, "No, that's not." So he said, "I'm leaving the plug out." They brought a computer in. They went outside to the truck and got a computer. And this computer has some type of program that it can measure motion, like motion detector. And it's just a program, and you plug a little sensor into the side, like like you plug in a card, and it's a motion detector. So he says, "Next time the light goes on, I need you to write down the exact time." I went, "Okay." I'm getting pretty simple jobs here. I'm liking this. Unfortunately, I wasn't paid, but so going through this a little bit. Next thing, we hear this music, and the girl again gives me a shot, and I was ready to. That one hurt. This was not a little girl. This was a little girl. And she says, "The doll." And I said, "The doll." She said, "The music, the doll." So from where I was sitting at the table to the doorway, 5 feet, 2 steps from me, I was right there. This thing is lit up. The music stops, and it says, "I see you," in a real husky man's voice. Now I'm thinking, okay, these guys are playing a really bad joke on me. And I said, "Yeah, I see you too." And then it says it again, but more sinister. Like, "I really see you." And I'm going like, okay, that's it. I'm out of here. Well, unfortunately, that girl had me by the belt, and I wasn't going anywhere, dragging her along. So I wrote down the time. No sooner I wrote the time down, she said the light just went on. So I wrote the time down for that. Got on the radio. I said, "Is there anybody in the basement or in the room above the dining room area?" "Yeah." "Do we have recorders up there?" "Yes." Okay. I told them what happened. So everybody's like in the kitchen all of a sudden. Well, the group downstairs, they caught it. It came through as "I see you," but not in the man's voice. It was in the little girl's voice.
So you're hearing the voice
Yes.
in a man's voice.
Yeah. And it was recorded in a man's voice.
Wow.
So the people that were in the room above that dining area, they also hear, on their recorder, they got the same thing, but it's in the little girl's voice. So we do a timestamp because they have timestamps not only on the computer that I'm watching, but there's timestamps on their recording devices. Timestamps were exact, right on the money, like 1:51 a.m.
Right.
So while this is all going on, the light goes on upstairs. So I marked the time down at that point. It was like maybe 3 minutes after that. And the guy said, okay, I'll go up and check. He goes up and checked. And first thing he did was, I saw him walk over to the computer and he's like looking down at it. He said, what was the exact time again? I don't remember what it was. I'm going to say it was like 1:53 or something like that. And he said, that's exactly what it says here, 1:53. There was motion in this room. And he said, I'll show it to you when I come down. So he comes down, he's got the little laptop, and he said, here's 1:50. And he said, look at 1:53. And 1:53, this graph is going nuts. And I said, what's going on here? He said, I ain't got a clue. So about 4:30, the family came back. The husband, wife, and the two kids were staying at the sister sleeping. So we told him all what happened, or they told him all what happened, and they were very empathetic. They were handling this very well. Me, I was a nervous wreck. And then the husband goes in and picks the doll off the chair and looks at it, and he brings it into the kitchen, and he pushes the thing, and it does the same thing. A little bit of music, will you be my friend, la, 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 can we go out and play, blah, 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 blah. And that's it. That's all it says. And he's holding it. I'm just going to kind of use this. And he's holding it, and he just like drops it. And I went like, what's wrong? He says, can I hear that again? So they played everything back for him. He says, on the back here, it says batteries not included. So this sucker had no batteries in it.
And it's turning the light on.
And the battery that did that little bit of talking was just a little like a watch battery, that they stuck in for the kids to push the button and get something. And he took it outside, right out the door. He had a burn barrel out there, and he took a can of lighter fluid and he burned it right there. I went like, okay. So, that was my entrance kind of into paranormal. And I didn't get anything for quite a while. And then it was actually started as a UFO report. And it was a snowy night. It was January. It was cold. And Alon got the call, then he sent it over to me. And this guy is watching glowing red orbs come over the mountain by his house and over the farm where he's living at. And he tells me where he's at. And I'm so like, buddy, you're like 5 miles from my house. I'll be right there. So go out, jump in the truck, get down. He's outside. It's snowing. And he said, maybe every 10 or 15 minutes they come over. I was standing around there waiting, and sure as shooting. I mean, here they came. There were like 3 of them. And
Butch, I'm going to get you to hold on right there as we are going to go to break here at the bottom of the hour.
Got it.
It's a rarity tonight. We're hearing some ghost stories from the legendary Butch Witkowski here on Strange Days on Spaced Out Radio, his website, UFOcop.com. We continue with Butch Witkowski's Strange Days right after this. All right, let's see if we can get rid of that echo there.
Hey, Space Trap.
There we go. Now we're away from that echo.
Okay.
I can't believe we have a Vinster sighting in the chat room. This is awesome. The return of Vinster. There he is. Read him and weep, ladies. Read him and weep. The Vinster has returned. Manuel, I'll ask that question in hour number 2. So just hit me up in hour 2 about that if you don't mind. Tracy Benna, welcome to Spaced Out Radio's chat room. Shauna, welcome to Spaced Out Radio's chat room. Philip Baca, good to see you, my friend. Thanks for coming on in. Apollo 11, good to see your return. Edens, how are you? The Lazarus Project, welcome to the show. Vinny was at the World Series of Bingo. That doesn't surprise me. Does not surprise me. And he wasn't there playing, Butch. He was there looking for a date. Mm-hmm. Hidden Existence. Was I on Hidden Existence? What was I talking about? I don't recall doing Hidden Existence. What is Hidden Existence? Was I interviewed on Hidden Existence podcast? When was I there? Well, that's what Daniela. Yes, thank you. That's what Daniela. Right. Hey, Night Gazer, how are you? Nicole Mello, how are you? Or Mellet. Probably Melot. Welcome to the chat room. And yeah, that's good stuff. I didn't know I was doing that. I was on the Bigfoot Odyssey channel, I believe. Butch, we got about 2 minutes here, more a minute and a half. Want to say a big thank you to Michael and Nicola for the super chats tonight, kicking everything off. We really do appreciate it. Hi, Super Duke. Nice to have you here from World Bigfoot Radio. You should all be signed up for that channel as well. Murray F., good to see you, my friend. Fapparino, you must be all giddy that Vinny is away from the World Series of Bingo and back to the chat room where he belongs. Greg Moyes, Jose, good to see you guys. 20 seconds, Butch. Amy WC looking lovely tonight. Second half hour of Spaced Out Radio is now underway. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us. We really do appreciate earning your listening ears. Want to remind you that if you've missed portions of this show or others, check out our free archives by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do me the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to Bumblefoot and reading up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show. The mean, the angry, the cranky, the man who never eats breakfast for dinner, Butch Witkowski from UFOcop.com has returned for Strange Days. We bring Butch in at the end of each month to kind of break down the month that was in everything paranormal and supernatural. Butch, welcome back.
Yes, sir.
Good to have you here. You were telling this paranormal story about the flashlights.
Yeah. And then we went to the red orbs over the farm. So he said, well, they're not done yet. And I'm going like, what do you mean they're not done yet? And he says, well, there's got to be a helicopter involved here somewhere. And I'm going like, a helicopter? It's a snowstorm. This isn't like, it's just cold outside. It's a snowstorm. 5 minutes later, here come two more of these red orbs, and they're followed by a helicopter. So I shot a picture, and then that was it. He said, yeah, well, they're done for the night. I'm going like, what, do you have a time schedule for these things? And he said, pretty much. He said, I've been watching them for a month. I went like, wow. So we went into the farmhouse, and we were talking, and he says, now, here's the strange part. And I said, okay. He says, I had some family here tonight. And they just came to visit, and everybody was getting ready to go home. We were just outside, kissy, huggy, bye-bye, shake hands, all that stuff, see you soon. And he said, everybody just they weren't themselves. They were just kind of out of it. And I said, well, what does that mean, out of it? He said, well, nobody was saying anything. They just kept looking around at everything. And I'm going, everything what? I said, you were standing in the driveway. And he said, well, we weren't alone. And I said, what do you mean you weren't alone? What are you telling me here? And he said, there were just these faceless beings. There were like four of them. And they were like, my people were standing here in front of me, and these things were behind them. And then when they got ready to turn around and leave to get in their cars, when they saw these entities, I said, okay. So I grabbed the flashlight and started walking around, and nothing. So went in and talked to the gentleman that owned the place, the husband, the father. He said, yep. He said, weird place, just a weird place. And they're going like, okay. The place is built 1865, something like that, 1866. It's always been there, and the only thing they were doing at the time, they had replaced the barn that burned down, so it was more of a modern barn. And then walking behind the home into a little field of maybe 50 feet wide, they were building one of these huge chicken houses where they hatch the eggs and stuff, and then they sell the chicks. This thing was a monster. It was 200 and some feet. I think he said it was 240 feet long and like 60 feet wide. And it was still under construction. So I could, go into one end and look in, but the floor wasn't in yet. I mean, just a lot of lumber, a lot of stuff laying around. I was looking around and I didn't see anything. So went back out. I'm talking to him, and I'm going like, but here's the building. I'm standing here. He's to my right. And I see him looking up like this, and to the right, basically looking at the roof. So I said, what are you looking at? And he says, nothing. So I looked up, and I can see there's something there. It's not very tall. It might be 4 or 5 feet tops. It looks like if you were driving down a road and the road was really hot from sun, how you get those wavy lines coming up off the heat.
Yeah.
That's what it looked like. But then it moved from the right on the roof to the left, just a little bit. So I just panned over to the left a little bit more, and there was another one. And it was right above a door, which actually wasn't even a door. It was just a piece of plywood covering and opening up a door that was going to be. But it was right above that. It was smaller, but looked the same. And I thought, well, okay. And I didn't want to give him the impression I saw anything. I said, "You sure you don't see anything?" Well, he said, "I see a little distortion up there." And I said, "Okay, see anything else?" And he's like, well, yeah, right over by the door there, I see this little bit of distortion. And I said, "Well, what are you describing as distortion?" And he said, "Well, it's kind of shapeless, but there's something there." And I said, "Okay, I agree." So there's nothing behind it that would have given the impression of light being emitted from maybe a farm or a house behind it that was causing some type of illusion. So about a week later, Lon Strickler and I and Lon's son went up there and got all the thermal imaging stuff out of the truck and started walking around. And we talked to them in the house. Then the boy, Matt and Lon and I walked outside, and I showed him where these things were. So we put the infrared up, and I gave one to Matt. Matt put it up. He says, "There's something there." And I put it up. And said, "Yeah, there is something there, but I don't know what it is. And what does it look like to you?" And he says, I said, "To me, it looks like it's a little taller than the first time I saw it." And I kind of scanned down to above that doorway. Now, at that point, Lon's walking toward that door. And he stops maybe 8-10 feet from the door. And he's like motioning like this. And I don't know what that means. I mean, come here and stay back. So we just stayed there. And then I said to him, I said, "Well, when he came back and he looked and, he could see through the thermal imaging." He says, "I have no clue." He said, "I walked up, when I was walking up toward the door," he said, "I heard like chanting, like Indian chanting." And I said, "Well, you're in a good spot for it, because this whole valley was Susquehannock Indian, and they were at war with everybody. So are these guys building this?" First thing that came to my mind was, are these guys building this chicken farm thing on top of a burial ground? And now we've got some watchers, or guardians. And it just went on and on and on. So I've been there a number of times. Not the last time, but the time before that, when I was there, they weren't on the roof anymore. The building is pretty much finished. But now a lot of the dirt that they had moved to put this building in was down at the end of the field. And when I scanned down through the field, I could see the same type of entity near a dirt pile. I didn't see the second one, but only the one. And I'm going like, geez, so what do we got here? And then the owner, he was saying about there's a pond outside the home. You come out the front door and there's a yard, and then maybe 30 yards away there's a pond, a little small fishing pond. And he said, "I never heard it before." He said, "But I hear music." And I went, "Music? What kind of music?" He said, "I don't know." He said, "It sounds like a bunch of Indians raising hell." I'm going like, "Really?" And he goes, "Yeah." So I left a recorder with him, and I said, "You hear that? Just push this button. When it stops, just push this button again." So he heard it. I can hear him talking while it's recording, but I hear no music. But he hears it. Excuse me. He says, "Do you hear those drums?" And I'm going like, "No, I don't." So while Lon and Matt were there, we were standing beside the truck talking. And I said, "There is one thing that I really need you guys to validate for me." I said, "When I was here the last time," I said, "if you look straight across from this driveway, look straight across the street and the field, there's a road in the field, and there's another road." I said, "Do you guys see a light?" And he said, "Yeah, it's red." "Wait a minute. No, it's blue." "No, it's red. Not went out." And they both were saying the same thing at the same time. So I said, here's a pair of binoculars. You guys stay here and watch that. I'm going over there. So I got in the truck, drove around, and drove up that road, and I could see them. I could see them in the light of the barn light, and had a radio. And I said, "Can you see me?" And they said, "Yeah." I said, "Is the light on?" And they said, "Yeah." I'm looking all around. I'm right there. There's no light on. He says, "Yep, it just changed to blue." And I'm going like, "There is no light here." I said, I had my little flashlight, pulled it out, and I flashed it. I said, "Do you see that light?" They said, "Yeah." He said, "It's right beside you." I'm looking left and right and left and right. I'm going like, "This is crazy. This is nuts." So I went there the next day in the daytime, walked all over the side of that mountain, and I didn't see any light. I didn't see anything that would have made a light. There was no wiring. There was no, a lot of these in the country, a lot of these old pumps and stuff they have for sewage have lights on. When they don't work, the light starts flashing red so somebody can report it that, the water is shut down or whatever. So that's basically still an open case. And then I thought, well, I went from UFO to paranormal to entities to this to that, talking dolls. That has to be the end of it. No, I'm not that lucky. About a month and a half after that, it starts out with another UFO call. Guy got a hold of me through email and said that he has a picture of a triangle he'd like to show me. I say, "Okay, where are you at?" And he said, "Well, I'm right in Denver." Well, that's where I lived. And I said, "Well, whereabouts?" And he told me. I said, "No, you're right across from the school." He said, "Yeah." I said, "Okay, I'll be down." He said, "Well, I don't get home until 10 o'clock. I said, "Okay, I'll be there a little after 10. So about 20 after 10, I rolled up. And he was waiting out front for me. And we walked in. The minute I put my foot on those steps, Dave, I just had the god-awfulest feeling like I should not be here. I should go home and crawl under my bed and lock the doors and grab a gun and just stay there forever. So it didn't take but a few seconds when I walked in the door. Every wall has a crucifix on it. There's pictures of the Inquisition, people being tortured, maimed, and burned. The house is full of antiques, of Satan, ashtrays, and metal artifacts. And this, I said, "What do you guys do for a living?" He said, "Well, we're antique dealers." He said, "I work construction in Philadelphia." I went like, "Uh-huh." I said, "So you collect all this stuff?" He said, "Oh yeah, all these crucifixes and stuff, they're off of coffins." "Really?" He said, "Yeah, off of coffins." So he said, we collect all this stuff." He said, "That brings big money up in New York." He said, "People buy that stuff by the tons." I'm like, "All righty. So can I see the picture of the UFO?" I want to get out of there as fast as possible, man. I just want to leave.
Why do you think you were feeling that way?
I don't know. The minute my foot hit that step, I just had this really bad feeling that this was someplace I do not want to go into. I don't want to know anything about. I just want out of there. But I thought, well, not right now to be a pussy in front of anybody. So, and I'm not going to break out crying or anything. So we'll just go in and get it over with. So we're talking, and he shows me the picture, and it's a good picture of a triangle. And I said, "Where were you when this?" And he said, "I was right out front." So I just got out of the truck. He said, you could see that it was still daylight. It was a Saturday because I'd only worked that morning. And he said, "I looked up," and he said, "There it was." And he said, "I took the shot." And it was a good picture. And I got a copy of it. And then he says, "But that's really not the problem. Here we go." Now I thought, here we're going to get it now, buddy. So I said, he said, "We have a lot of problems here." And I'm going like, "Okay, what kind of problems?" He said, "I really don't know." And I said, "Well, that's not telling me anything that I can help you with." And his wife walks in, and she's got the Eye of Horus tattooed across her forehead, just like that big, from one side to the other. And I'm looking at her, I'm going like, now I really need to know where the exit is. And there's a Bible. And then right aside on the table, right aside of the Bible, there's the I forget the name of it. It's a book on spells and stuff like Maleficargus or something like that. Whatever. But anyway, it's laying right there. And I said, so you folks are religious? He says, well, he said, I study, Jewish Kabbalah. I went, okay. And she said, well, I used to be Roman Catholic. He said, but my mom was a witch, so that didn't last too long. And I'm going like, oh boy, what did I bite into this time? Now, in the time we're inside, this gentleman drank a bottle of Johnny Walker Black, the whole bottle, from start to finish.
On an investigation.
And he was as straight as an arrow. I'd have been on the floor or laying out in the street in the gutter. This guy was straight as an arrow, didn't slur his words, anything like that. And I said, okay, let's get to the meat of this. What is the problem in the house? Which I thought was pretty obvious. And he said, well, there's things living here that shouldn't be. And I went like, okay. He said, we don't go upstairs. He said, we have a back bathroom with a shower and, this, that, and the other thing. He said, and the rooms it's a huge house, old house, but huge, built in the 50s. So the living room is like massive. And every piece of furniture in the place is an antique. There's not a new piece of anything, except in the kitchen, which was, I'd say, fairly new. Now, it was where he was born and raised. His parents bought a home across the street, so they lived across the street. I said, well, did your parents ever have any problems in here? He said, no. I said, did you see any problems with this when you were growing up here? He said, no. And I went, okay, so let's get back to what's living here. What do you mean, something's living here? Well, that means we'd have to go upstairs. I said, okay, let's go upstairs. He went like, no. I said, no. And then his wife said something to him. And he said, well, you go up the steps first. I'm thinking like, buddy, I'm Polish, but I'm not that Polish. I said, you go up the steps first. I'll follow you. So we're going up the steps. And the more we went up the steps, the goofier it got. I mean, I just didn't feel right. Like I just should leave. I shouldn't be there. So we get to the landing. I went like, couldn't understand. And he said, we went into the kids' room. And the first thing I noticed when I walked into the room was every door, there was two closets, one in one corner, one in the other, and they were screwed shut. And I said, no, you don't use the upstairs at all. The kid don't stay up here or anything. And the little boy was 4. He just turned 4. And he said, no. He said, there's bad things in here. So I had a meter with me. And, I walked over to the closet that was screwed shut. And I put the meter up. And it just went wild. It just pinned the needle. And I said, can we open it? He says, you can. I'm not opening it. I said, you have a screwdriver? He said, yeah. So he gives me a screwdriver. So I open it up, and my EMF meter is going like this when I open the door. It's just back and forth and back, like it's on fire, just like a tachometer. And I thought, this ain't good. So shut the door, put the screws back in. I said, is that it? He went like, no, the wife's dressing room. And I said, what's wrong with the dressing room? He says, you have to see it to believe it. And I went like, okay. Walk in, there's one of these big tall mirrors like women use when they get dressed. They got to see the whole body, everything's in place. You walk in front of it, it turns black. It's a mirror. I mean, when I walked in and looked at it, I could see the room. When I walked in front of it, it turns black. I went like, I got to get pictures. I was taking pictures like a madman. So he said, well, we got one more place to go. I said, where's that? He said, attic. I said, okay. He said, what you see, I have no idea what it is. He said, you think I'm crazy, or you think we should just burn the house down? That was my first thought. Light the place. So we're going up the steps, and about halfway up, I stopped. I actually stopped. I wasn't going any further. And, I reached behind my belt and I put my hand on a revolver. And it was
Hold
the
on.
first
How
time.
are you going to shoot a ghost?
Wait a minute. I've never been that scared of anything that I didn't see where I'd actually put my hand on a gun ever in my life. Walked up to the top of the steps, and there's this circle in the middle of the first thing that caught my eye was the coffin, which was off to the left. So there is this circle in the middle of the room, and it's just wooden floor, not plywood, but, like planks, old pine, and one little bulb. And I said, so what's up here, and why is there a coffin in the corner? Oh, we bought that at a sale. He said a lot of these undertakers go out of business to have these sales, so we go and get this, stuff. And he said, and then we sell it. And I said, okay, that answers that. So what's all the jars? And they were like 1 gallon jars, like pickle jars, but a gallon.
Right.
Filled with dirt. And I said, so what's with the dirt? He said, oh, that we get that off a fresh burial. I said, what? He said, we take that from fresh burials. I went like, uh-huh. And the reason is you take that stuff to New York and people buy that stuff. Oh, yeah. He said, Satanists love that stuff. We were like, okay. So now the guy is starting to back down the steps. I'm going, where are you going? He says, you'll see in a minute. Next thing I know, I look over at the circle. It's not there in the middle of the room anymore. Dave, it's over here. The same circle. I turned around, I'm talking to him. I said, wait a minute, that circle moved. It was right here. Now it's over there. He said, yeah, well, take another look. Now it's over there. It's over in the corner. I said, so now I'm crazy, right? I got a flashlight. I'm like looking through the rafters for a projector. I'm thinking this guy's really pulling my cork. And if he is, I'm going to shoot him. So, I turned around and look at him, and he's crying. And I said, you all right? He's there. I need to go downstairs right now. And I said, okay. So we go downstairs to the living room and we sit down. He breaks out another bottle of Johnny Walker Black. Now this guy is like chugging. I'm like, wow. I mean, in my younger days, maybe, but not, no way. And the wife is going on and on about her mother being a witch and how she used to put spells on people. And all I want is out of this house. But I'm getting nowhere. I said, okay, let's see. What did you buy last? When did this start? He said, about a month ago. I said, did you buy anything and bring it into the house? Yes, I did. I said, can I see it? He said, it's locked in the trunk in the car out back. I said, can you get it? Can I see it? Yeah. And then she comes in with another box, a cardboard, like an egg box, and she starts pulling stuff out.
Butch, I'm going to get you to leave it right there for right now because that's a good place to end it with some suspense. What the heck is in the trunk of the car? That's what we are going to find out when we come back on Spaced Out Radio with Butch Witkowski. You're in one of our chat rooms. Put a guess in the chat room. I want to know what you guys think is in the back of that car. I have my own suspicions, but we'll figure it out when we return with Butch Witkowski's Strange Days. UFOcop.com is his website. Check it on out. Butch Witkowski's Strange Days happens at the end of each month where we break down the month that was, the weird and strange. Different topic tonight, paranormal woo. We'll be back right after this. All right, Butch, I'm just going to run my dogs outside. I'll be right back, okay?
Yep, I gotta go bathroom.
All right, I'm going to mute you. All right, we'll be right back. Hi, Bizzler. Hey there, Greg Moyes. Be right back, guys. Goober Bear, what's happening? All right, Butch, I am back. How you doing, buddy? Super Butch, we have about a minute 25.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. Shrunken head, shoes, Dybbuk box,
They're never going to get it.
a mask.
Close.
Tire iron, a cooler, small alien, wine box. Looney, how you doing, man? Good to see you. All right. Let's see what else we got here. Jimmy Hoffa. Jesse Peak, welcome back. Big thank you to Andrew, to Ozzy, Steve. Let's see, J1, Vinster, Ed, Michael, and Nicola for the amazing super chats. Mr. Cowley, welcome back to the show. Oh, Mr. Cowley.
You're listening to Spaced Out Radio with Dave Scott. Follow Dave on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Facebook, Spaced Out Radio Show.
Here we go with hour number 2 of Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you so much for joining us. We really do appreciate earning your listening ears wherever you are on this beautiful planet we call Earth. Thank you to everyone tuning us in on our terrestrial affiliates around North America and digitally on TalkStream Live, Revolution Radio, and KPNL. All of our archives are free by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Just do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Kyphosis. Kyphosis is your password. Use it wisely, space travelers, as the Clam sets a password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to Bumblefoot and reading up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show. We continue on tonight with Butch Witkowski's Strange Days. He comes on near the end of each month to talk about a weird and strange stories of the month that was and investigations that he's made. Website is uforcup.com. Butch, welcome back.
Okay, sir.
All right. So right before the break, I had to cut you off right before you were going to tell a story about what was in the Satanic homes and why it was happening. It takes us to a trunk locked outside in an old vehicle. You got to pick up the story from there.
Well, so the gentleman goes out and the wife puts this box down in front of me and she starts taking stuff out. And the first thing that she pulls out is a Haitian blood cup. Now, I've only knew what that was because in my wife and I's travels to the Caribbean and around there and with cruises and vacations, I've seen those before. The blood cup is used in ceremonies where a chicken is bled out, and then some people drink the blood, some people splash it on themselves, whatever. And then there's a deck of cards, tarot cards, dated 1730. And then there's a bunch of little brass devil heads. There's a box. At first it looked to me like an old pencil box from school, but when you opened it up, it was like, they might have been 8 inches long, and It just looked like a very sharp spike, but it was very ornate. There were two of those in there. And then there was a shirt, which looked very, very old. As a matter of fact, it was actually inside of a plastic all folded up. But the front of it was just covered with dried blood. And I'm like, okay. And I said, so what is all this stuff? And she said, well, it's just stuff that we buy, we collect, and we sell. Okay. And then there were some candelabras in there that, well, of course, everything had the devil of some sort in some position on there. So he comes in the back door and he's got a wooden box and he puts it on the table and she moves all the stuff out of the way. And I took pictures of everything. I have pictures of all that stuff. And he opens it up and he pulls out this, it was a mask. And it was a Haitian death mask. So it had the horns on it were actually animal horns, I believe, from a goat. Very ornately painted in very bright colors, yellow, red, bright blue, and green. Very bulging eyes that were probably came out of a doll or a dummy or something like that. And I said, so you brought this in and that's when this all started? He said, yeah. He said, I kind of figured out when we really realized that it was made out of human skin that this was a bad omen. So I said, okay. So I took some pictures. I took some really good close-ups. And I said, by any chance, would you have a microscope or a magnifying glass? Yeah, I got one of those. I said, can I borrow it? Now, I've been to so many autopsies in my career. I know what skin looks like. So got the magnifying glass. He took the lampshade off. So we had blood. It was skin. It was human skin. And I said, okay, I think the best place for this is out in the trunk. Yeah, he said, we have a buyer. We're going to get it up to him sometime next week. I went like, oh, okay. So we exchanged some pleasantries. And he said, we don't even go down to the basement. He said, there's stuff down there that I don't even want to know about. He said, I see him walking around. I said, what do you see walking around? And he said, just shadows. They're like humanoid shadows. They got arms and legs and heads and shoulders and, Okay, so I said, so your washer and dryer's down there? He said, no, we use the laundromat up the street. And I went like, okay. So I left. Gave him my card, said, call me if anything happens. Might have been 6 or 7 days went by, and I got a phone call from him. And he said, I just sent you some photographs. And he said, could you stay on the line while you pull them up? I said, sure. So I pull them up and I'm looking. And he says, I was in the kitchen and there's a doorway. One doorway goes out to the left. If you're in the kitchen looking straight ahead, there's a doorway goes out into the dining room. If you go to the left, there's a basically just a sitting room, like a little study. And there's gates up because of the little boy. They don't want him in the kitchen by himself, or sneaking around. So there's a gate there. There's one, little expansion gates. And I went, okay, so what am I looking at here? I can see the gates. I see the doorways. He said, well, you don't see those two entities standing there. I went like, no. He said, I didn't either, but I saw them when I turned around and looked. They were there. When I tried to take a picture, they weren't there. I went like, okay. He said, so I went out and I got my wife's mirror from the bathroom, the extra bathroom they had. I put the mirror up against the cabinet and got the doorway. He said, I used the mirror and took a picture off the mirror. And sure as shooting, there were two entities standing there. Assuming that the gate was probably 3 foot high. The one might have been 5 foot tall. The other one maybe 4.5 foot tall. I could see facial features. I could see eyes. I could see nose. I could see a chin. Head was very broad. Shoulders were very broad. And from the shoulders down, just thinned out. Well, the photograph didn't capture anything below the knees. And they were just standing side by side. And I said, but you could see them Yeah. He said, if I turned around, I could look right at them. I said, were they doing anything? Or he said, no, they just stood there. And he said, that's when I realized that the cellar door was open. So actually, he said, when you open up the cellar door, there were like coat racks in there you can hang coats in. And we had rain that day. And he said, my wife probably went in and got a raincoat before she went to work. And I went like, okay. And she never shut the door. And they came up from the basement. And I went like, okay. Now, Dave, I'm trying to put all this together in my head, what I've seen. The place was like a museum of horror. I mean, who has pictures of the Inquisition, people being tortured and skinned alive and burned and beheaded and cut in half, and who has that stuff in their living room?
At any point, did you not think of the minute you knew that mask or whatever was human skin? Did you not think of calling the police on that?
No, because you know what else was stamped on the back of it? Made in Haiti. So it was legit. You could probably buy it in Haiti. So here's the best part. I left a couple days go by. I called Lon because, the Mala Maleficaris was on the table, and a Bible that was probably older than dirt, and some books on witchcraft and spells and all this stuff. And this guy polishing off 2 quarts of 2/5 of liquor and straight as an arrow. And I showed him all the pictures. I even had pictures of the wife with her Eye of Horus tattooed across her forehead. And he had some Kabbalah symbols tattooed on his neck. I said, what am I dealing with here? I mean, that's up Lon's alley. That's not my realm. And, I was really just asking basic questions. But till this day, I will swear that the minute I put my foot on that front step, I had that bad feeling like this was not going to go well. 5 days later, I called the house to see if anything had turned up or if anything else had gone wrong. And the wife answered, and she said, my husband was committed last night. He went bananas. I went like, okay. I said, so what hospital is he in? She said, he's down in Philadelphia at Northwestern. I forget what it's called, like a sanatorium. Till this day, and that was 4 years ago, he's still there.
No kidding.
The house is empty. She moved on. Don't have any idea where she went.
Do you have any idea where all the trinkets went?
Nope, no idea. No clue. The place is empty. The cars are gone. He's gone. She's gone. I have no idea. I tried to get information from his mother and father, which live across the street, and they said they just told us he was going on vacation. I said, how long ago was that? She said, a long time. I said, isn't that strange? And she went, no, he was always a strange kid. And I'm thinking, like, lady, you ain't got a clue. And I have all the stuff. I kept all the reports, the pictures and everything. And even right now, if I pulled them up and looked at them, I'd just shut them right off. I just can't even look at them. I mean, it was just so bizarre. I mean, who keeps a casket and grave dirt in their attic? What the hell was with the circle going from here to there, to here to there, to here to there? There was nobody up there but him and I. And he was on the step below me. I was on the top step. What was the circle? And when I really thought about it, it was like, it might have been a little 40-watt bulb hanging off a wire. The place was lit up like it was LED lighting. I till this day, I don't know. Lon, I gave everything to him, told him everything, and he said that was just a bad place to be. And I went like, then he was a little concerned. He said, has anything happened since you've been home? Did you bring anything home with you? And I said, no, it probably took one look at me and went like, forget it. This guy's a loser. That was it. That was the end of it. So there was a second story that turned out with a UFO and entities on a chicken coop, and a UFO and a haunted house. And you know, I just, like I said, that's, you know, I all I could do when I was there was ask basic questions. I mean, I'm not by any means a paranormal investigator, but I don't know how people could live like that. And the other thing, when we went upstairs, I almost forgot that. When we went upstairs, um, the girl yelled up the steps. She said, "Don't forget to show him the bathroom." And he went like, "Okay." And before we went into the kids' room, we went into the bathroom. He turned the light on, and the sink had this mat of red hair, and I mean red hair, as ginger as you could get, just a big mat of it. And I said, "Oh, drain clogged." He went like, "No." He said, "That just showed up one day." And I said, "Oh, just showed up." He went, "Yeah." He says, "You did notice that my wife's a blonde." I went like, "Yeah, I did." Okay, let's move on.
No kidding.
I just, that place just, it just took the steam right out of me. And then when she said he was committed, he was taken to the Ephrata Hospital, and they called an ambulance and had him taken right down to Philadelphia. He's been there ever since. And the house is empty. There's nobody living there. There's no cars. It's just empty. There's no furniture. There's nothing on the walls. I mean, it's just an empty house.
No kidding. That is just totally very weird. Very, very weird. Butch Witkowski and UFOcop.com. We continue on here tonight. Butch, in the cryptid world, do you get a lot of strange creatures? I know you're talking about Dogman a lot, or bipedal canines, or whatever the issue may be with the cryptids that you are checking out with a lot of different people here. So I'm curious in regards to different stories. Like when we had Lon Strickler on about a week and a half ago, he was talking about these night crawlers and all sorts of creatures like that. Have you dealt with that?
Yeah, through Lon. Matter of fact, the one I was describing earlier on, down by in the state park where the old farm was, that's actually the description that was given by two different people. Now, they live on the state farm game land, but they had their homes on that before the state bought it, so they're grandfathered in. Them and their families can live there forever. But there's only two houses that are private that are on state game land or the state park. And they both saw it. As a matter of fact, like I said, the one guy took a shot at it, and his description was very tall, very skinny, very long arms, very spindly legs, kind of a roundish head, almost like a perfect circle, very dark eyes. It had a mouth. The mouth was open when he saw it, when he shot at it. And then when he shot at it, it just like, poof, gone. So that's why I have the cameras down there, because I figured, well, if there's something down there, and with all the cameras I got down there, I got to get something. I mean, I've gotten hikers, I've gotten deer, I've gotten birds, I've gotten everything you can think of, but nothing like a rake. But rakes in Pennsylvania aren't all, they're not that uncommon. Up along the New York border, there's I wouldn't say a myriad of reports, but there's a good couple dozen reports over a period of years. And then down toward the Maryland line, there's a couple there also. And they're in very remote areas like state parks and just mountain ranges that are down there. Nothing, like in any communities. But, and we've had, besides the standard, I call it the standard upright canine, we've had animals on all fours that were very large, described by the three reports we have, Great Dane size, long, hairless tails, from the midsection of the body, which is very muscular, a hump that rises up and goes right to the head. So here's the head, and the hump comes up like this and meets right to the head. And, you know, wolf-like features. And they're talking about a dire wolf. Dire wolves were real. I mean, they were real animals. And to have two of them in the same place at the same time, seen by different people, that's nuts. Now, I haven't been down there yet because it's an area where there are no homes around there. It's kind of remote. But if you'd go 5 miles in either direction, you'd run into, you know, townhouses and stuff like that. But that particular area, which is really a lot of hunters go to for deer and pheasant, and there's a state game land office about 7 miles down the road. And the guys down there said, oh, we get those reports all the time. It's probably just a big dog. Well, dogs don't look like that. I mean, you have this huge body. You know, Great Dane's not a little dog. I mean, you know, so you're figuring if you just took the Great Dane and you muscled him up, and then, you know, and he's got a tail with no hair on it, that's number one. And then the body comes, you know, from the hips, it starts to hump out, and the hump meets the top of its head. That's a dire wolf. Now, dire wolves have been pretty much extinct for a long time. So I don't know what the heck those are. I have no idea. But they were both the two guys that saw both separate reports, but there were two the first time and two the second time. So it's a pair. And they were seen chasing deer. So I don't know. I really don't know, Dave. I mean, there's so much stuff. I mean, Pennsylvania is so weird. At one time or another, you name it, we've had it, or we've had reports on it. And, you know, you can only follow up so much because, you know, of course you get the people that want to, you know, just blow smoke in your ear. And then you get other people that stand there crying and shaking, and, you know, they can't even talk because of what they saw or what they thought they saw. But you know, when I got to talk to the one gentleman about the guy that took the shot, he said that was a rifled slug, 12 gauge Magnum. And I said, did you hit it? He said, oh yeah. He said it was only 40, 50 feet away. He said, I couldn't have missed if I was blind. I said, anything happened when you hit it? He said, not a thing. He said it just turned around and walked away like nothing happened. So I don't know. I have a gentleman coming to the house with his wife. They have a brother. His brother lives right close to me, about 10 miles down the road. And they come up a couple times over the summertime, mostly for graduations or parties or picnics. And he lives in Jersey. Now, he's been coming up here for the last 14 years. And he said, I've come the same way every time, never changed a route, never got rerouted for construction or anything like that. So back in June, they were up visiting a brother. They left to go home. And he said, normally, average traffic, the time we leave and everything, an hour and 20 minutes tops. Absolutely tops. This time, he pulled up in front of his house 45 minutes later. He said, that's impossible. So I called his brother at his house and told him. And he said, there ain't no way you got from here to there because he lives in northern New Jersey. He said, there's no way you got there in 45 minutes. He said, I'm calling you from the house. And his brother at that point didn't even believe him. He said, well, I'm going to hang up. You call the house. And at that point, it was probably like maybe 55, close to an hour when they were there. Brother called him at the house and he was home.
Big speeding. Lots of speeding. Butch, I'm going to get you to hold on right there before we go to break here at the bottom of the hour, halfway through the show. We got Butch Witkowski for another 1 hour here on Spaced Out Radio before we bring in John Hudson. for the unbiased UFO report. We get to the Newswire and the thought of the day in hour 3. Butch Witkowski's Strange Days happens at the back end of every month, right here on the mighty SOR, as he turns up the woo on Spaced Out Radio. All right, we're clear. Big thank you to my wrenches for dealing with the troll. Thank you. Good job. And kind of go from there. Great work. B. Hoff is asking, I tried to contact Butch via Facebook. No reply. How can I get in contact about a cryptid I saw?
Best way is go to the Ufocop page on Facebook. That'd be the best. Or I could give him my email address right now.
Yeah, give it. I'll type it in there.
It's Butch218 at DJazz. That's DEJAZZD.com.
There we go. Just like that?
That's it.
Perfect. There you go, B. Hoff. Good to have you back, buddy. I noticed Gary the Dutchman in the chat room tonight. And, it's that time of night. I got a haircut today. I did. I got a nice trim on the sides as I'm growing out, as you can see. Nicely trimmed. Tony with an eye cut my hair today. She did a great job. And anyways, made me think about Mighty Moose beard oil. Now, if you go into our description of this show, Gary, you'll be happy with this. Gary the Dutchman. I actually put you down as a sponsor on our feature board, so when people read into it, they'll see your sponsor link on there. I'm using the True North tonight. Or pardon me, the True North. And, the one thing that Dutch people hate is giving a deal. There's not a Dutchman on this planet who loves to give a deal. Not a single one of them. Yet we have convinced Gary the Dutchman to give you guys a deal on Mighty Moose Beard Oil products by going to mightymoosebeard.com. We have. I don't know how we did it, but we were able to. And every time somebody from our show uses the promo code SOR 2019, Gary goes nuts. Crazy. He's like, why did I agree to this? I'm Dutch. I can't give a deal to people. No, we don't do that. And then he throws his wooden shoes across the room. It's true. I've seen it happen. So, anyways, Mighty Moose Beard, you just put it in your hand. It's good stuff. It's all natural, no chemicals. Just massage it in. That's it. Takes good care of your beard. And for the ladies out there, or the guys who don't have a beard, it's great for your hair as well. Gives a nice sheen to it. We don't get to use the word sheen a lot here. All right? Butch wouldn't know what the fuck this is about. But either way, you just rub it into your hair, massage it in. Your hair smells great, looks great, feels great, and it lasts. So remember, when you go to mightymoosebeard.com, all you got to do is use promo code SOR 2019. All prices are in Canadian dollars. All right? So tell Gary the Dutchman you want a deal. He's going to grind his teeth. He's going to argue. He may even shed a tear, but that's okay. You get the deal, courtesy of Spaced Out Radio. So check it on out today. See? Throws wooden shoes. Howard, how are you, man? Good to see you. Kurt Seltzer with a splash of lime. Nice to have you here, buddy. I know there's a super chat that I missed. Apollo 11, thank you so much for the super chat. I also want to say a big thank you to Andrew, to Ozzy, Steve, J1, Vinster, Ed, Clater, Michael, and Nicola for the amazing super chats tonight. Really do appreciate that. Stetson John, good to see you in the chat room as well. And yeah, we're having a good night. I know Gary the Dutchman laughs every time I do a commercial for him. But Gary, seriously, I did put it. You'll notice it as of last night in the intros for the shows. Your address is in there. We passed the halfway point of Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us. We really do appreciate earning your listening ears. We want to remind you that if you've missed portions of this show or others, check out our free archives by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Just do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to Bumblefoot and reading up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show. We continue on tonight with Butch Witkowski's Strange Days. Butch's website, UFOcop.com, where if you've got a sighting of something you can't explain, you hit that up. Butch will investigate it for you. Butch, welcome back.
Thank you, sir.
Strange creatures tonight. You've dealt with a number of them, from Hat Man to bipedal canines. You know, what's one that's really, really puzzled you over the years?
I would have to say it's the bipedal canine.
Outside of that one.
Outside of that guy, I would say the Rakes, the spindly, pale white, whatever they are, walking around the woods.
So for people who don't know what a rake is, because we all think of it as a gardening tool, what is a rake?
The description of a rake is 6 to 8 foot tall, extremely thin, ribs showing, pelvis showing, long spindly legs that are way too long for the body, from the neck to the crotch area. Long arms down around the knees, no hair anywhere on the body, long spindly fingers, usually very black eyes or very dark red, not bright, but just dark red eyes. Feet, pretty much the same. And it is amazing. I mean, there are a lot of reports of them, but nobody seems to look into them. So there's not a lot of reports that were even actually investigated. I guess the closest thing that you could say about those was the Slender Man. Just picture him without, the suit and all that stuff. And, they're either very, very light gray or very, very bright white, one or the other. And they're seen all over Pennsylvania and northern New Jersey. Gets a lot of rake reports.
What causes these sightings to happen?
Usually everything that, people think there are people out there looking for this stuff. That's not really what happens. I mean, people are, usually running these things when they're taking a walk or they're driving in their car. It's not something that is a daily thing where you have researchers out there, looking for that particular type of critter. And the reports that are taken, for lack of a better word, they're really done kind of shoddy, because you can tell just the way the report's written up that the person taking that report doesn't believe a word they're saying. But you can't do that. I mean, even if it's outrageous and outlandish, you've got to take the report as it's given and don't put your feelings or your 2 cents into it. I mean, let it ride the way it is. And, there's, to answer Alien Critters question there, the busiest county for Bigfoot reports is Fayette. Fayette County, those reports, they pretty much on a daily basis. And if you've never been to Fayette, it'd be like me living in the city of New York and leaving the city of New York and moving to British Columbia. I'd be so lost I wouldn't even find my own car.
Just turn left. Just turn left.
I mean, that's just the way it is. And the amount of people that is out there asking questions, sometime, in my mind, I just think it's better if they'd stay home, because they either misconstrue the whole story or they start to add their own pieces into the story to make it more coherent. And that's not the way you investigate. It should be what you got is what you get and what you put down in your report. When you start putting stuff into a report, you might as well throw the report away, because if another investigator gets involved in it, it's just a mess. And I do not. It is just one of those things where you can't challenge a witness. You can ask a lot of questions, but you can't challenge them, because the minute you start to challenge them, they think that you think that they're lying, and you don't ever want to do that. And you don't ever, one of the things I very seldom ever do, and I think if I had to think back over the last 30 some years, I think I did it twice, where somebody made a report to somebody else, they got nowhere, and then we picked up the report. And that happened twice, and I just don't do it anymore. It's not worth the aggravation. It's just best to just do it on your own, or do it with your own group. Now, sharing reports, I have no problem sharing reports. I will never share names or exact locations. That's not going to happen. Never did, never will. Because once you do that, your credibility is shot. You're done. There's nobody going to give you any information on anything, for fear they're going to see it up on Facebook tomorrow evening.
True. I want to ask you, I'm going to rephrase Wendy's question here a little bit. Her question is, are researchers afraid to investigate? I wonder. I'm curious, Butch. I know you're a pretty brave guy. You're a pretty tough guy. But is there anything that you absolutely refuse to investigate out of fear or personal commitment?
No. I mean, I felt uneasy already, like I mentioned before, with that house. But even that house was like, that was probably the only second time that I felt uneasy. The other time might have been, was probably with the doll, where my head didn't compute what was going on. No, I don't really have a fear of that. I mean, we take precautions. We have all we need to keep us safe. And I always try to pick somebody that's going with us that's a lot slower than I am, so I can get to the truck faster and go.
Very true. That's always a good plan.
Or if they have a game leg or something like that, where I can grab a crutch and they're down, I can make hay.
That's always a good plan. Always a good plan. Let's get over to Race Fan. Has anyone ever taken a shot at a rake or a nightcrawler?
Rake and nightcrawler are pretty much the same thing. Descriptions are almost identical. Yes, the one case that we're working on right now, one of the gentlemen took a shot at one with a 12 gauge Magnum slug gun, and nothing happened. I said, did it yell? Did it scream? Did it fall over? Did it do anything? He said, nope. I said, did you hit it? He said, I couldn't miss. He said, I hit it square in the chest. And he said, just turned around and walked away. That's the only one I know taking a shot. Now, I've read reports from Western Pennsylvania where people say they've shot and wounded Bigfoot, or they've shot and killed Bigfoot, but you know how that goes. Where's the blood? Where's the body? Oh, well, he just disappeared. Okay.
All right, let's move over to Jenny's question here. Can we ask you about a UFO and Bigfoot at Presque Isle, Pennsylvania?
Sure, absolutely.
What happened there?
Two couples were out on a Saturday evening, and or Saturday afternoon they started. They went out to Presque Isle and down to the beach, did a little swimming, carrying on. Then it got late, and they were starting to head home. And the vehicle, an old Oldsmobile, got stuck in the sand. So they tried pushing it out, but that didn't work. And the one gentleman said, well, he said, I'll just walk back to town, which I don't know how far that was, but it was a pretty good distance, and get a tow truck. And in the meantime, a light appeared in the sky over the lake, and it landed. They watched it land. Then the two girls and the one guy got in the car and locked all the doors and windows. And putting aside the craft for a minute, the one girl got out and was looking around, and she heard a rustling in the bushes, like a carrying on, like something was walking around in the brush. And she came face to face with what she described as a Bigfoot. Now, they did get hair samples off the trees because, of course, the cops showed up, a couple park rangers and the cops and the tow truck. And then they walked down to the area where this craft had landed, and there were 3 marks in the sand that pushed the sand down, so whatever landed was heavy. It was 3 legs hit the ground, and then in the middle of those legs was a patch of what the Air Force described, because they sent a guy there also that was also investigated by the Air Force, and it is still listed in Project Blue Book as an unknown. But it was like an oily substance, but it didn't sink into the sand. It wasn't absorbed into the sand. Samples were taken at, and of course, plaster casts were made of odd marks. And I think out of the 4 people, I think the one girl and the guy that actually walked back to get the tow truck are the only living people. But it was a real deal. I mean, it was investigated by the military. It was investigated by a couple UFO researchers. It was investigated by a couple Bigfoot researchers. And so, like I said, in Project Blue Book, it's still listed as an unknown.
Interesting. All right, let's go to Laura's question. Do you think a rake is really a Bigfoot seen without his hairy suit on?
No, it's a totally different creature. It doesn't move the same. Everybody describes it as moving very slow and very deliberate when it takes a step, almost like it doesn't know where its foot's going to be when it hits the ground. And they don't vanish. They just kind of walk off, and like the one guy described, he said it was like watching smoke. He said it was there, it was walking away, and then it got lighter and lighter and lighter, and it was just gone. But they're not built anything like a Bigfoot. I mean, it's just two total different descriptions, not only in size but build, the way it walks. And a lot of times, this was something that was kind of strange, but I found it in about 5 different reports where they're never seen standing up and watching you. They're always like down on one knee or crouched down, and just looking around a tree at you or something like that, And then when they're seen, then they'll stand up, and then, they'll either walk away or somebody will take a shot at them. But there are reports all over the country about those things, especially out in the Southwest. New Mexico, in the canyons, they're reported a lot in canyons. So, again, it's like saying, well, what is Bigfoot? Well, what is a rake? What's a bipedal canine? Why are there sightings of werewolf, not werewolves, but these large wolves? Wolves are big to begin with, but dire wolves, they died out thousands of years ago, but the descriptions are exactly like a dire wolf. So we just don't know. There's so much that we think we know, and there's so much we don't know. Look, what is it, like over 50 years now, we're trying to locate Bigfoot. And I've seen those shows on TV where everybody, the government got a Bigfoot, or they got two Bigfoot, and they're breeding them. And hey, give me a break, just give me a break. They're there. They're there. Something's there. The whole west, basically the whole northern west coast. From Northern California, Washington, Oregon, up into British Columbia, and then just keep going. They're all over the place. You don't have anybody out there with wooden sneakers on making tracks. That's crazy. There are people who have seen Bigfoot that they can't even get a sentence out about Bigfoot. They just lose it. And when somebody said that they came face to face with one, I never question it. I never have and never will. Because first of all, I wasn't there. That's number one, most important. Number two, what would somebody telling me that story gain? I'm not making a movie. I'm not writing a book. So what do they gain by telling me some fantastic, crazy story? And to be honest, I've really never had a crazy story. I've had people describe having rocks thrown at them, more than one witness. I had one report where a gentleman had some stuff thrown off of a high point off a trail, rock and some wood and stuff like that. And, less brains, more butt. Up the hill he went. Right away, he just tore up the hill, and he said all he saw was tall grass. It was just parted in the middle, like something ran right through it, and there was nobody there, just him and his buddy. So something's out there. Some people. The big thing now, it's starting. It's not a big thing, but it's going to be, where they're saying this is just an offshoot of a Neanderthal or something like that. So they're just humans from another time that have survived or found a way to survive. But I put that story in the class of reptilians, like the underground is filled with reptilians that actually run the world.
Jazz is asking, are rakes ever seen coming out of a UFO craft or portals?
UFO craft, I've never seen a report like that. But portals, yeah, there are reports where they'll see the being walk away, and then just kind of, there might be a bright light or a dull light, and it's gone. Portals, we don't know enough about portals. Really, there are no researchers that I know of that even study portals or anything like that. I'm sure it bears some type of. Now, I know NASA and, astrologists look at black holes, but a black hole isn't a portal. A black hole doesn't open and close. A black hole is there. It stays there. But portals probably, yeah, I guess you could call them portals when they disappear like that. But UFOs, no. And the stories that were out a number of years back, maybe 10, 15 years ago, where Bigfoot was seen piloting UFO craft. That's crazy. That just,
you don't like that one?
No, that's nonsense.
Come on.
That's just somebody that was looking to get some fortune and glory, and it didn't work out.
All right, Andrew is asking, Butch, have you had any little people experiences?
No, I haven't, but a friend of mine, out west, rest his soul, he had some pictures on his website. Unfortunately, when he passed on, the person that was running the website took everything down. I think Lon Strickler may have some of those photographs, and you can see it. Just there's a little something in the bush. I mean, they're like, I guess there's like 3 pictures, and I don't want to say they look like a leprechaun. They look more like
A gnome?
no, small. They look like a really smaller ET. You know, head wise and body shape, but you're only really seeing it from maybe mid chest up. And they're real dark, real look like to be a real dark green because they were taken with a color camera. And I don't know, I've never had them. I'll tell you where people can find about a lot of those reports. If you Google small beings in Ireland and Scotland, there's a ton of reports on that stuff. Now, a lot of it's probably, but there's some pictures there that are like, I don't know.
All right. Next question comes from Laura, and we got a bunch of audience questions here for you, Butch.
All right.
Laura is asking, do you have any reports regarding a man-like spider with a baby face?
No. Never heard anything like that.
All right. Apollo is asking, any interesting MIB investigations, Men in Black?
There's a group in Philadelphia. They're basically a paranormal group, but they've done a lot of work in the MLBs. I spoke at a conference down there where they were at, and they had some pretty good information. But it's like anything where you have government involvement, you stick your nose in too far, and somebody's going to break it for you. And they got chased off of. They tried getting on military bases. They tried to surveil military bases. Well, putting surveillance on a military base is going to get your butt in jail. You don't do that. But they don't seem to investigate the ones that kind of look like, good-looking guys like you and I. They kind of, they're looking at those ones that, are real pale. They both look like twins. The way their mannerisms, their speech, the way they walk. Don't know. I really don't know. But I know that group investigates them.
Joe wants to know, have you ever wrestled a dog man and bit its throat out? And if so, what did it taste like?
An Italian sandwich.
Right on. So if you're hunting dog man, go for the throat. It's like having a nice hoagie.
Yep.
The Lazarus Project is asking, do you think Bigfoot is connected to these missing 411 cases?
On a scale of 1 to 10, I'd give it an 8.
Why is that?
Well,
You got 1 minute.
Dave Pallades is a very good investigator. He doesn't pull any punches. He doesn't take any crap. And he goes out and he does the job the way it's supposed to be done. And some of the stuff he has in his books, and if anybody has never read any of his books, get them. They're worth the read, especially if you have an interest in Bigfoot or disappearances of people. When you look at he has a map. I think when you buy one of the books, I forget, or any of the books, you get the map for free. But there's a map of the missing persons, the 411 cases he's investigated. And when you look at that, when you lay that out, that's a pretty good sized map. When you lay it out, you look at it. If you look at where a person was missing, where a 411 case started, if you just kind of just look around a little bit, you're going to see cases of Bigfoot. So now, I'm not saying that all missing persons in these places are Bigfoot, because a cougar will take you just as quick. A bear will take you just as quick. And a bear will bury you and come back and eat you later.
Let's get to more audience questions when we come back with Butch Witkowski and Strange Days from UFOcop.com. We'll be back with Hour 3 right after this. All right, Butch, I'm just going to run my dogs out. I'm going to put your mic on mute. I'll be right back, okay?
Okay, boss.
Be right back, people. All right, Super Butch. Headphones on here. All right. How you doing, buddy?
I'm good.
Rock and roll. Rock and roll. All right, we've got about 1 minute, 25 seconds left.
Oh, okay.
I've got my chat room stalled here, so that way I can get to the questions. I know I'm going to miss a bunch here when we come back because I'm... All right, I want to say a big thank you to Amy, to Magnus, Apollo, Andrew, Ozzy, Steve, J1, Vinster, Ed Clater, Michael, and Nicola for the super chats tonight. Really do appreciate all of your support here on Spaced Out Radio. It's a great way to do that. And, of course, all of our new subscribers. If you're new here, don't forget to hit that subscribe button as well as ring the bell. So that way you know when we are going to be coming on live on Spaced Out Radio. We're going to get going here in about 5-6 seconds. So sit back, relax, and here comes hour 3.
Would you like to connect with us? Head to spacedoutradio.com for all your latest show info. Now, back to Dave Scott and SOR.
Third and final hour of Spaced Out Radio is now underway. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us. Really do appreciate earning your listening ears wherever you are on this beautiful planet we call Earth. Want to say hello to everyone listening in on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on TalkStream Live, Revolution Radio, and KPNL. All of our archives are free by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Just do me the favor, hit that subscribe button. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Kyphosis. Kyphosis is your password. Use it wisely, Space Travelers, as the Clam sets the password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to Bumblefoot and reading up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Instagram, Spaced Out Radio Show. We continue on tonight for the final time with Butch Witkowski from UFOcop.com. Butch joins us at the end of each month to talk about all things weird and strange. We got a bunch of audience questions here for you, Butch. This one coming from Sylvia and James. Your thoughts on Bigfoot using his vocalizations to mimic other creatures?
There's actually a study going on about that right now. I believe it's in our way up north of Oregon. They're matching vocalizations to different animals that they have vocalizations. They know what they are, but some of the vocalizations are almost identical, but they're not known animals. So I don't know how that's making out. There hasn't been a whole lot out on it yet, but I'm sure if they can prove that, they'll prove it, because it got some pretty sophisticated equipment out there.
All right, let's get to Elaine's question. Is it just North American sightings, or do you look at sightings from all over the world?
All over the world. Everywhere. The most that we get are out of England, Poland, Spain, Brazil, some of the islands, but there are all types of reports, everything from chupacabra to UFOs. undersea UFOs.
All right, let's move on here. Gloria is asking, have you ever been attacked by a creature or something paranormal?
Just my mother-in-law.
I don't even know how to respond to that. Nicola is asking, Butch, what do you think is the biggest contributor to the missing 91 or 411 mystery?
I think the areas in which the missing the 411 reports take place, because like I said, if you look at the map, there wherever there's a 411 report, there's a Bigfoot, one or two Bigfoot reports, sometimes more. So there may be a connection, but we don't know. Hopefully Dave can straighten it out or get some more information.
Well, I think it's how much do you let me phrase it this way. How much do you think is people walking into portals and they don't even know?
Oh, I think that happens a lot. I mean, there's some of the cases of the missing, and I'm not talking about 411. I'm talking about just, stuff that I've been looking at since 2006, 7, in the United States and pretty much all around the world. You've had whole villages disappear. You've had military, you had a whole army disappear, a whole battalion. I mean, so did the one that always sticks in my head is two British pilots were out checking on. This is during when the Arabs were going nuts and they were after each other, the Saudis, and one of them religious wars, and the British were there, and they were using planes to just keep track of everybody to see what was going on, so they could get in there and stop something bad that was going to happen. And they were never heard from. So they sent out a search crew, of course, and they found the plane. And there was nothing wrong with the plane. The plane started right up, had plenty of fuel. It was landed. It didn't crash. And you can the pictures they showed. You can see where the pilot got out one side and the colonel that was with him got out the other side, and they walked side by side. The footprints are walking side by side, and 50, 100 yards away from the plane, they just disappeared.
I still think there's a lot of portal mystery in there. Yes, we can blame aliens. Yes, we can blame UFOs. But I really am believing that a lot of these people just seem to vanish into these portals. I mean, especially in downtown areas, where you get a bunch of buddies there walking out of a bar on a Friday or Saturday night. The one guy says, "Hey, just wait, I'm going to duck into the alley to take a piss or something like that." And the next thing you know, he's gone. And he's only 20, 30 feet away from his buddies. There's no noise. There's no sound of a struggle. There's areas where the buddies could see where their friend had went, and it is completely gone. I mean, I just don't get it. And to me, I think that a lot of these people, even in the forest, are walking into portals. And I bring up this David Paulides book from the Missing 411 Canada book he did a couple of years ago, where there was a young girl in Ontario, I believe, where she was riding horses with her sister and her best friend. And the other sister and the best friend decided to take one way. This young girl decides to take the shortcut, and her and the horse disappear, never to be seen again. It's one thing to take a child, but to all of a sudden have an 1,100-pound animal disappear, never to be seen again. To me, that says portal.
Well, that and there was a case that I've mentioned on the show here a number of times, where a group of young folks were at a bar, and the bar closed up, and the one guy that was with them went to get the car. They watched him walk across the parking lot, and he wasn't but 100 feet away from the car. And he didn't come back, and they thought, well, maybe he had a little too much to drink. He fell over, maybe he tripped and hit his head or something like that. And they walked over there. Keys were on the ground. He's never been found again. No sign of a struggle, nothing. He's just gone.
Just weird.
Yeah.
Behoff is asking, Butch, what would be the latest time in the day I could offer Bigfoot an omelet?
Well, Behoff, you're going to have to get up on the game, because Moneymaker and the BFRO guys, I mean, they're out there throwing out spare ribs, pork chops, cupcakes, Twinkies, scrambled eggs. I mean, you're going to have to go a ways to catch up to those guys, but they're usually first thing in the morning.
Yeah, Bigfoot doesn't eat breakfast for dinner, just so you know.
Yep.
Mennonite Abe is asking, are Bigfoot as intelligent as humans, in your opinion?
Oh, I think they're much smarter. We haven't been able to catch one in over 50 some years. We haven't even gotten a good picture of one in over 50 some years. So if they've been around as long as everybody says they have been, going back to the indigenous, of course, they've developed a way that they can hide, and we're not going to find them. There's just no way. I mean, you know, people joke and say, you know, they're the world's champion hide and seek. But, you know, if you live somewhere where, how can I put this? If you live somewhere in the woods that, you know, you were the only person living there for a number of years, you had no neighbors, there was no roads or anything like that, but you're pretty self-sufficient, living off the grid, and somebody came looking for you, and if you didn't want to get found, they're not going to find you. You know, you know every trail, every bush, every tree, and they're the same. I mean, you know, they didn't get not captured from being dumb. I mean, it's an intelligent creature. I mean, no ifs, ands, or buts about it. But you know, when you investigate Bigfoot, you gotta take all the nonsense out of the report to get anything out of it. And believe me, there's a lot of nonsense. But I always looked at it this way from the very beginning, before I even got involved in looking at Bigfoot. If somebody, and the money's there's a $1 million reward for anybody that can produce a Bigfoot. You don't think they would have found him by now? $1 million cash? It's in a bank in Washington State. It's been there collecting interest for what, 20 years now? Nobody's come up with anything. I mean, there's a lot of guys that said they did. You know, they had the stuffed bodies and, you know, the suits and all that stuff, but nobody's come up with one.
All right.
Are they smart enough to bury their scat? Are they smart enough to bury their dead? Are they smart enough to, you know, to cover up their abodes where they live, or where they congregate? I mean, you know, yeah.
I think they have very good control of their body and their breathing techniques in order to stay completely still, so that way, if you're looking at them, it looks like you're looking at a tree stump, or something along those lines. You know, almost like a trained military sniper. That, you know, I mean, you hear all these stories from World War II right up to Vietnam, where these snipers are in such heavy camouflage that the soldiers are walking right around them, sometimes within inches, and don't even see them.
Yep.
I think that's what's happening with Bigfoot.
Oh, I agree. I think they're masters of what they're doing. Because
how important is it to control the breathing?
Oh, that's, even with a sniper, that's a big deal. I mean, you know, if there's somebody close to a sniper, like you said, within inches or feet, I mean, they just hold their breath. I mean, that's it, and they get trained for that. There was a story a little while back of a Navy SEAL sniper that just exited a Zoom boat and was going to take up his position along a river, and some of the enemy were walking down to like fill canteens and get a drink, take a leak, and whatever, and he basically went underwater and held his breath till they left, and he to this day, he said, I don't know how long they were there. He said it seemed like forever, but when he came up, they were gone. There you go.
Very strange.
Mm-hmm.
Very, very strange. All right, let's get to a question from Ange in Australia. Do you think ley lines and portals go hand in hand?
Absolutely. The 32nd parallel. Oh God, I can't think of his name. There's a researcher from Colorado, and he did took him a long time, but what he did was he mapped out all the UFO reports on the 37th parallel from one, and amazingly, the 37th parallel goes right over Area 51, goes right over Roswell, So, and he logged all these reports, and in Spain and Brazil, one of the things that they use a lot when they do investigations into UFOs, they use a lot of ley lines to get directions and see which way they're going, and they really document direction mostly, but they use ley lines for that. Ley lines are important.
Definitely important. Why do you think so much of that action happens on the ley lines of missing people and UFO encounters, things like that?
Well, they always named 37 parallel was always named the alien highway, so that's just where all the action was, and the fact that it crossed over Roswell and it crossed over Area 51 just put everything in everybody's minds, and everything it passed over had something to do with the military and UFOs.
Amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Amazing. Butch Witkowski and Strange Days continuing here on Spaced Out Radio. We have some audience questions that we are taking right now, and let's go over to, oh my goodness, my chat room jumped again. Here we go. Apollo 11 is asking, and I like this question. We've never asked this question before. Has anyone ever reported Bigfoot wearing clothing?
No, not that I know of. Mm-mm.
Do you think then that Bigfoot is actually taking the time of folding up the clothing? Because so many times in these missing people's reports, we have folded clothing, we have shoes sitting on top of the folded clothing. The clothing is clean. What's your thoughts on that?
That's a real mystery to me. I mean, I don't know if it was like somebody. Well, there's a lot of cases when the clothing's found, the body's not found right there. So did somebody, coming down the trail see this stuff and fold it all up? I don't know about keeping it clean or anything like that, but that's just a total mystery to me. Why putting shoes side by side, folding up pants, shirts, ties? It's crazy. It just don't make any sense. And there's so much in that 411 progression of reports that are just bizarre. I mean, they're just strange. And, you can pass off some of the 411s, like I said earlier, on cougars, or a cougar's not a little cat by any means. People think they're, like good size of a good dog. No, they're a lot bigger and a lot stronger, a lot faster. And, they go for the kill right away. They bite the throat. So there ain't nobody screaming or carrying on or yelling for help. They're done. And the bear attacks, and just think about the last 2 years, we've had this spate of bear attacks up in Alaska. That's crazy. I mean, they went for years without a bear attack. And now, the last one was a girl was pulled out of the tent and killed.
Well, did you hear the one from last week?
No.
A gentleman up at his mining claim had a little hut, and at night for about 5 days straight, a grizzly bear was trying to get at him, and they actually brawled it out. The grizzly bear pretty much ripped the door off the shed, had dragged the guy down to the river at least once. This bear has probably bullet holes in it, because the guy was down to 2 bullets in his handgun. And during the day, the bear would disappear, but only come back at night trying to kill the guy. And the guy hadn't slept in days. During the day, he had crawled up onto his roof and put a "help me" sign in rocks on his roof, only to have a Coast Guard helicopter on a routine flight fly over and see the "help me" sign with the guy on his knees with a white towel waving it.
Wow. Probably the only thing that kept him alive was, the bear was getting hit with bullets. And where was this at?
Nome, Alaska.
Wow. I'll have to look that one up.
Yeah, it was just a week ago.
Huh.
It was crazy. This guy hadn't slept in days because of the grizzly bear trying to get him.
Yeah, they don't give up easy, grizzlies.
No. And the grizzly bears out there in the remote areas, they don't care what they eat. Humans, animals, fish, they don't care. If there's a food source there, they are going to eat it.
That always killed me where they said, if you're being attacked by a bear, lay down and play dead. Why? You're going to be dead in a minute anyway. Why waste time?
Right? Yeah, it was kind of, I just would not do that. I just would not do that. There's, Alaska's a weird place too. And next month we have Mike Ricksecker coming on the show to actually talk about that Alaskan triangle where all these people go missing every year. Yeah. I mean,
lots.
Yeah. That place has a big death toll. A very big death toll. So, Butch, we only got about 2.5 minutes left with you tonight. For our audience who's going out in the forest, maybe for the first time, maybe they are there just to hang out and have a good time and go for a hike or whatever, what's the best way they could prepare for seeing a cryptid?
Oh, I don't think they could prepare for that, because every cryptid report, it's a walkout where people have been eating at the campground or walking down a trail and something walks out in front of them, or they're hiking and something's watching them and they see it. Game wardens, state patrols, they've all run into that problem. I don't really think it's not one of those things where you can go out and expect to see something. I mean, there's hundreds and hundreds of thousands of people in the woods over the summertime, especially in hunting season, and they don't see anything. But then there's those weird cases where somebody lives in a certain area for all their life and they never see anything, and then one night they'll go out, sit on the back porch, and there's something standing in the woods looking at them. And when they describe it, it's not something you really want to run into. I don't think, I wouldn't feel right telling somebody that this is the way you would go find them, because there's just no way. I mean, we spend a lot of time and a lot of money and a lot of effort and a lot of equipment to try to trap them, as far as getting a picture or a good cast or infrared or thermal imaging. And now we've also put DNA stuff, environmental DNA kits in the trucks. So I mean, you can only try what you can try. I mean, if you're lucky enough to be on one side of a creek or a lake and see one on the other side and you can get pictures and all that stuff, it'd be great. But that don't happen too often.
Very true. Mr. Butch, we got to say goodnight to you once again. We appreciate you coming on in to Spaced Out Radio from UFOcop.com for Strange Days. We will talk to you at the end of August. You have a good month.
Yes, sir. And good night to the group, because they're something else.
They are a bunch of weirdos. They are, especially Fap and Vinny. But that's another story. Coming up next, we have the SOR Newswire, the thought of the day. But first, Stetson John is going to join us for the Unbiased UFO Report. Stay tuned. We continue right after this. All right, we're clear, buddy.
Good night, sir. Have a good day.
You too, and don't let the bed bugs bite, or the wife.
I'll try not to.
All right. See you, buddy.
See you. Bye.
Take care. Butch Witkowski, everybody. Butch effing Witkowski. We love him around here. We do. My knees are killing me right now. Let's see. I've been up since 5 o'clock this morning. I'm tired. My body is sore. Oh, Luscious Jewels. That is a bad predicament. Bad predicament. All right, Stetson John, you're up, buddy. Where'd that go? There it is. All right. There we go. There's Stetson John.
What's up, buddy? Why were you up at 5 o'clock?
Mrs. SOR had to go get gallbladder surgery today. So I had to get up in the morning and take her to the hospital to go get the surgery done. And
I'm convinced that they do that early so the anesthesiologist can make his tea time.
Could be.
There's no other reason to start surgery at 6 o'clock in the morning. It's horrible.
Yeah, all I know is that I dropped her off at the hospital. I then had to. I went and took myself for some breakfast, and then I killed some time by just, I went and checked things out at Walmart and found in the Walmart parking lot. I decided to have a snooze for about half an hour. The most uncomfortable sleep I've had in a long time. George McPhillips, how you doing? Whit Helton, thanks for coming on in. And so then about 10 o'clock, I went and got a haircut at one of the barber shops there. And literally just go to sit in the chair at like 10:20 after they wash my beautiful mane. And I get a call from the hospital. You come pick her up now. I'm like, well, I'm right in the middle of getting a haircut here. Like, come on. Isn't she still a little wonky? Yes. I said, give me like 15, 20 minutes and I'll be right there.
Give her a newspaper.
Give her a newspaper. So,
I trust she's okay and everything went well.
Yeah, everything went fine.
Good.
A little sore, but everything went fine. Thank you.
Well, good surgery always leaves you a little tender.
Yeah. So, and no, there was no Taco Bell. I did have Denny's for breakfast. There is a Denny's up there, and I had a Denver omelet with hollandaise sauce and hot sauce mixed in between. Very good.
So my favorite thing to do when I go to Canada is I eat at all the fast food places that I don't eat at in California. Because in California, most of them are very dangerous to eat at. But all the same places in Canada serve actually lovely food. It's crazy.
You know what? For any American who's never eaten at McDonald's in Canada, it is way different than the United States.
And not to take anything away from Canada, but it's not just Canada. It's true in France. It's true in a lot of countries.
Oh yeah.
Not so much England, but but a lot of countries. Any country that basically takes care of their food.
Yeah. Yeah. It was crazy. So yeah, I
Yummy Denny's.
Yeah, came home. I literally turned my computer on after I went and got medication from the pharmacist. By the way, medication cost a whole $2.78 here, just so you know. I'll be right back. Hold on. We rounded third. We're heading for home tonight on Spaced Out Radio. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us. Really do appreciate earning your listening ears. Want to remind you that if you've missed most of this show or others, check out our free archives by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do me the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to Bumblefoot and reading up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Instagram, Spaced Out Radio Show. It is time to bring in John Hudson for the Unbiased UFO Report. Yes, we're about to get strange with John Hudson here on Spaced Out Radio, who gives us an update on the latest UFO news that seems to be changing each and every day. John, welcome back to the show.
Thank you, Dave. I'm happy to be here. How are you doing tonight?
I'm doing great, man. I'm doing absolutely great. A little sore, but I'm doing fine. And it's been a long day, but you know what? Hey, it's been a great day as well when you have Butch Witkowski and yourself on the show. So
nice way to end it.
Let's get right to it, my friend. There's a little bit of news coming out of John Greenwald and the Black Vault and UAPTF requesting a briefing from NASA. Explain to me what's going on here.
So the fun thing about this, and tip my hat to John. This is the kind of detailed work that I love to see out of him, because he jumps into the weeds, not a lot of people do. And basically what he found out was that even though NASA was not on the list of contributors on page 3 or page 2, I believe, of the report, that there was actually an email trail showing that only a month after the creation of the UAP task force, they requested a secured briefing, so in a secured environment, opportunity to talk to NASA. And there were several emails that went back and forth. You can read about them on John's site. And a couple of interesting tidbits came out of that. And one of them was that the person that was the acting associate administrator for the Office of International and Interagency Relations, if that's not a mouthful, was a guy named Mike Gold. And Mike Gold used to work for Mr. Bigelow. And so you have some kind of interesting tie-ins there. And but essentially, along with a previous discovery John made the week before, that essentially if you look at the report that the ONI National Intelligence Manager for Aviation, I think you get paid based on number of characters in your title, was a man named Major General Daniel Simpson, and he was of the U.S. Air Force. So we have an interesting pattern here, because what we see is that they requested a meeting with NASA only a month into the program, and meetings did occur. So you have to assume there was some contribution back and forth. And then we find out that one of the people who helped prepare the actual UAPTF report was a U.S. Air Force Major General. So now neither the Air Force or NASA were listed as contributors in the document, but obviously they both actually contributed to at least a minor, if not a major degree. So it shed some light on, the soup that was behind the meal,
That amazes me that the U.S. Air Force had a general help write up that report, because the U.S. Air Force has been public in saying that they want nothing to do with the UFOs. That literally, they said, that's on the Navy. Don't come asking us for it. This is all on the Navy. And NASA,
Well,
I can understand, because they finally came out basically saying, we're going after the aliens. We're going after them.
Yep.
So that one I can
NASA,
understand.
NASA's been very. It's actually been kind of fun watching NASA's statements recently. They actually seem to be kind of enjoying themselves a little bit and getting involved. And I agree, but I will say that there was a note in the UAPTF report that the Air Force had began to engage. It had just only happened very recently. Like it had only happened in the previous couple months. And the thing that you have to remember is that this Major General, while he was in his U.S. Air Force, he was his post was in the ODNI as the National Intelligence Manager for Aviation. So in that role, he takes on the position that he holds, and he will fulfill that position to his greatest ability. So I have no doubt that he put all the effort he could into that report, even if his Air Force, leadership, back at home may not have been too happy about it. But because of his role in the ODNI, this was his responsibility. He had to contribute.
Still strange. Still
Yes.
very, very strange in regards to
so.
And in regards to NASA, what I found, I don't know if you noticed this, but a couple weeks ago, NASA, when they jumped on the UFO bandwagon, a little late, but at least they finally did. Did you notice that they cut a feed of a strange object flying by the International Space Station like a couple days after that? Did you notice that too?
And the thing is that people think this is myth and rumor, but the truth is they cut the feed a lot. I mean, it's not at all uncommon. I mean, and weird stuff gets seen all the time. And the truth of the matter is that we have no idea what they are. It could be natural phenomenon for all we know, but they don't seem to have any interest in letting the public see it. But the thing that people have to remember is that NASA does a great PR job of branding themselves as this benevolent organization. But what people have to remember is that a significant portion of NASA's business was black. And a lot of those shuttle missions were dual missions, where they had a scientific aspect and they had a black operations aspect. Because think about it, everything being deployed and worked on in space was done through NASA. So, there was always a lot of the revenue, if you want to call it that. I mean, it's funny money within the government, but a lot of the revenue that they got was through black projects. In some cases, the shuttle bay would actually be divided up, and there would be a line that you couldn't cross unless you had clearance, because on one part of the project would be something black, and on the other side would be scientific. So, I mean, NASA Goddard is East Coast, but NASA Ames is right by my house. I grew up right near it. And in 25 years, they've let the public into NASA Ames once for 1 3-hour period on a Saturday morning. And that's it. Other than that, for 25 years, the public has not been allowed onto that property. Now, if you have a meeting or something on there, I've been there several times for meetings, but for different things. So it's not impossible to get on, but it's armed guards. You have to show current ID. You have to be on an invited guest list usually. NASA does a lot of good science, but they aren't they aren't the goody two shoes that I think they try to present themselves as.
All right, let's move on to Travis Walton, because he's finally broken his silence regarding the situation with Mike Rogers and the denial that everything that happened for the last 48 years plus or 45 years has been a hoax.
Yeah, and I was happy that Travis is speaking out. I hope he continues to do so, because I think it's only fair that he gets to speak his mind and plead his case in this whole debacle. But I will say there was something that Travis said tonight that I think really kind of put a nice package around it. And he said the problem is that when someone comes out and attacks you like this, you have two choices. You can do nothing, in which case a lot of people think you're doing nothing because you have no rebuttal and you're giving in, or you can fight back, in which case you've dropped down to their level, and now it's just two guys throwing punches at each other, swapping insults, and it doesn't help anyone. So you don't win either way. And so, while I think I think it's good that he's doing this, I think he's right in that, I don't really know. I saw some people commenting, and it seemed like the people that supported Travis liked what they heard, and it seemed like the people that weren't supporting Travis didn't like what they heard. So I'm not really sure it moved the needle either way.
The sad part about this is his story hasn't changed in 45 years, from being hit with that UFO beam of light. We all seen the movie Fire in the Sky, so we don't have to go over into detail on the story. But I mean, we all know the story. We all know that his story hasn't changed. Travis is not a rich man off of this story by any means. All right. And
it's cost him a lot.
It has cost him a lot. Just like anybody who's had an encounter like that, it costs a lot, whether it's family, friends, or financially.
Absolutely.
And for him to come out for 45 years, and people, who are thinking with a 21st century mind that this guy is a lunatic, this guy's lying. I mean, I had a guy earlier, was it today or yesterday, attacking me in my own Facebook group for Spaced Out Radio, because I said this show is entertainment. So here he is talking about the fact that I just admitted that it was entertainment, that all of our guests and all of the stories people hear are a bunch of garbage, and they're a bunch of lies, and it's a hoax show. No, he didn't want to hear the fact that we are here for the entertainment of our listeners who like this subject matter. And we bring on the people who are here to tell some amazing encounters, amazing research, and amazing stories. But all he heard was, this is entertainment. And
they hear that it's certainly, they think it's gone from nonfiction to fiction. And
Absolutely.
People don't understand that the way content is delivered and the nature of the content are two totally separate things. You deliver point of view factual material in a method that is usually very relaxing and enjoyable to hear, and that's what makes it entertainment. But it doesn't reflect the source of the content. It's
absolutely.
But people are touchy. People are so emotional about this,
and they are very clickbaitish. Where if they hear one word, you use the word entertainment, well, you must be lying about all the programming that you were doing. Yep. No, that's not the case. But they got their aha, gotcha moment, and that's what Mike Rogers got when he stirred this up for no reason. Mike Rogers was the guy driving the truck, and Travis Walton's boss, who's wanted the spotlight for a long, long time. He doesn't like the fact that everybody goes to Travis, because Mike doesn't get offers to different conferences to speak. He doesn't get offers to headline documentaries on ET Contact. He doesn't get that. And he wants that fame, in my opinion, and will do and say anything that if he can't have it, nobody else is allowed to have it. To me, that's the way it looks.
I agree. But I will add one more quick point before we move on, and that is that one of the things that Travis did talk about recently was that Ryan Gordon, the other individual, seemed to be specifically making up data to give to Rogers to rile him up. It was as if Ryan Gordon was trying to put a wedge between them and was playing on Rogers' insecurities. So there may have been some I want to stress may have been some very intentional puppet string type activity going on here.
Absolutely. All right. Keep us informed on that if you don't mind, because I'm sure there's going to be reaction in a couple of days. Finally, tonight, Avi Loeb, who was on with Lynn Wallington on Sunday, talking about the Galileo Project and breaking it all down, where he is gathering a bunch of scientists who are going to put their name on the record for the specific purpose of looking for intelligent life out in the stars. Well, he had a big breakthrough with this group in a press conference on YouTube. Tell us about it.
Yes, and it was a beautiful press conference. I'll put it on Twitter after this so everyone can go. It's an hour, but I highly recommend you check it out, because he goes through this beautiful list of people who are part of the program, and he goes into their backgrounds and explains why each of them are involved. And he explains some of them come at it as skeptics, some of them come at it as non-skeptics, and he does a really good job. But what he's essentially saying, and he had a nice tagline that he was kind of throwing around, that was, this organization will use a 3-pronged approach to replace unreliable, and I know this is going to offend some people, but understand this is a scientist's point of view, the approach to replace unreliable eyewitness reports with reproducible scientific observations. And so in many ways, what he's trying to do at a grander scale is what Bob's thing, Skyhub, is trying to do, where they're basically trying to create a method where data can be shared in digestible ways, understandable to a wider population. And so, he needs to be applauded, and I think everyone should keep their eye on this, because, I think this is at a big scale, and it's getting a lot of press, and they're hoping to raise. They've only raised, I think, a couple $1 million, but what they're hoping for is to get up into the 100 million type range that SETI did at one point, and put some real serious money and research behind this. It's very promising.
As long as they tell the truth and they don't hide anything, and I don't think Avi Loeb is going to hide anything, but if they start hiding details, much like we believe SETI has done, as well as NASA and other groups, then it's a waste of money.
Well, you got to remember, SETI is where NASA people go after they retire, right? And SETI is full of NASA folks. So it's a very similar mindset. Now, I'm not saying it's a bad thing. I know a lot of people at SETI. Some of them are wonderful, brilliant scientists and good people. But my point is that one of the things that Avi Loeb talks about is the fact that he wants to, and why it needs money, is because they have to start building apparatuses. They have to start building actual gear so that they can record this on public gear that has no relationship to the U.S. government, so that they can guarantee that the data will be accessible and will be seen by all.
John, we'll talk to you in 2 nights. Thank you for a great, unbiased UFO report. People can also catch this feature on our YouTube channel as well. We'll talk to you in just a couple days' time.
Thank you, sir. You have a good evening. Get some sleep.
Let's get to the news, shall we? The news is always changing, which is why we bring you the SOR Newswire at the back end of every show, where we get to the weird, the strange, the wacky, and sometimes the dangerous. Here's a weird one. A Florida man startled beachgoers when he washed ashore inside a hybrid bubble running wheel device. The man, identified as Reza Baluchi, washed ashore in Flagler County on the east coast of Florida Saturday. He was inside a large barrel-type device which appeared to have flotation buoys attached to the end. The Flagler County Sheriff's Office posted photos of this strange vessel on Facebook. The occupant advised he left the St. Augustine area yesterday to head to New York, but came across some complications that brought him back to shore. The U.S. Coast Guard was contacted and arrived on scene to take over the case and ensure the vessel and occupant are USCG compliant for their safety moving forward. Baluchi's aim was to run to the northern U.S. or Bermuda. Bellucci instead ended up 30 miles south of his St. Augustine starting point. My goal is not only to raise money for homeless people, raise money for the Coast Guard, raise money for the police department, raise money for the fire department. They are in public service. They do it for safety, and they help out other people. Wouldn't that be funny if one of these actually charged him? That would be funny. All right, moving on. Residents of Texas and nearby states captured video of an overnight fireball that glowed brightly as it streaked across the sky. The American Meteor Society logged at least 213 reports of a fireball, with sightings reported in Texas, Arkansas, Louisiana, Oklahoma, and Missouri. The fireball, believed to be a large meteor, was caught on video by dashboard cameras and doorbell cameras in Texas. Some witnesses reported hearing a loud booming sound that accompanied the spectacle. Emergency responders in Rockwell, Texas said there were unconfirmed reports that a portion of the object hit the ground near a rural road. Isn't that interesting? Let's get to the thought of the day, shall we? Thought of the Day happens every night at this time, where we ask a question on our Facebook and Twitter pages, then read your responses on the air because we love the audience participation around here. Today's Thought of the Day is as follows. What's the chances monsters live in a different realm or timeline that we can peer into? John believes it's pretty possible. Davey, without a shadow of a doubt, these other realms are just as real. Tim, very high. There are too many things that can't be explained that humans have witnessed for decades. All of those encounters by reputable individuals cannot be wrong or discounted. Bobby, the size of the transdimensional portal is directly proportional to the amount of grumpy quantum particles Butch Witkowski can produce on spaced out radio. I think there's something to that. Catherine, it is the way. Jim, the chances appear to be 50-50. Joshua, the chances are very high. I would say that monsters are extra dimensional. Gail, I'm not so sure any of us could peer into another realm or timeline. However, I am fairly certain monsters dwell in them and are able to pass through and experience life in our realm and timeline as well. Michael, monsters? There is a real-world possibility that dinosaurs still exist on other planets that weren't smacked by the big rock. And finally, Daryl, most definitely some live in a different dimension and visit ours. Thank you to everybody in the Thought of the Day. Thank you to Captain Shirk for the news, John Hudson for the unbiased UFO report, and Butch Witkowski for coming on for Strange Days. We got Mr. Ron Bumblefoot Thal rocking in the background with Little Brother is Watching. Bumblefoot is the official music of Spaced Out Radio, rocking us in and out of every single show. Get your horns up for the guitar god himself. Special thanks to everybody listening in at home, at work, in your cars, wherever you may be. Thank you to everyone in our chat rooms tonight. YouTube, Twitch, LGAB, Revolution Radio, Spreaker, Facebook, the Space Travelers Club, and on Twitter at hashtag Spaced Out Radio. Remember, this show is copyright by Spaced Out Radio and SOR Media Ventures Limited. Thank you so much for choosing to share your evening with us, because together, my friends, we own the night. Mr. Bumblefoot, we need a favor. We need you to take us home. Yes, the Woo train has docked for the night, but soon, my friends, we shall ride again. Your seats are always available. Your tickets never expire. And if you want to bring a friend, we got room for them too. Good night. Great show, people. Great show. Butch was in great form. You guys were in great form. Shirky Poo had great news. John Hudson is an amazing addition. This is fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. Great way to kick off the week. Great way to kick off the week. It's good stuff. I'll be right back. I'm just going to take a quick bathroom break. Bear with me. 137 of you. Let's see how many of you stick around. Wesley Cornelius, how are you? They call him Yukon. All right, I am back. Oh. Give me 2 seconds here. Close that out. Close that out. Close, close, close. Adam Milanovich, how are you? Fap, are you firing me from my show? That would suck. That would totally suck if you fired me from my own show. Jesus, Fapster. Really? It was my parents' 52nd wedding anniversary. It's kind of cool. Yes. Did it work, Jules? I wouldn't surprise me in the next couple of days if you're feeling better, honey. Wouldn't surprise me at all. I knew that was coming, by the way. Bob and I had talked about that. That doesn't surprise me, hon. It's only going to get better for you. Which one do you want to know about? Oh, and I should pass on this news about Lynn Wallington. She is going to be having Samantha Mowat come on as a monthly guest. Hi, gorgeous Amy O. Amy Vegas O. There she is. Our big trouble in Sin City. Amy Vegas O. We love her around here. She actually sent me a picture of what's that drink called? The greenish blue Mountain Dew color that I'd never heard of. She actually sent me a picture of that the other day. I didn't think it existed. Lynn is going to be amazing on the weekend shows. She is just getting better and better with each show, and she's getting stronger, and we're tightening her up a little bit. just on getting everything going. And she is like a sponge in picking this up. Baja Blast. That's what the drink was. The Baja Blast. Lynn is getting better each and every show. I mean, yeah, I agree with you, Lynn. I mean, Jules, sorry. Lynn is, there are not enough good words to say about what Lynn brings to our team. And then when you combine her with what Spookles is doing on our social media, Gary Spikes on YouTube, Gail with the news, Emily and Filth with the bookings that they are getting. It is a very, very solid team that we got going on here right now. And it's kind of cool to see it growing from the inside. You know, Gary and I did some work. Well, mainly Gary did, but him and I talked today, and the other night, and he got some work done on the YouTube channel. So you'll see our YouTube channel looking a tad different, which is really cool. So we are pretty good with that. Let me pull you up. You just started your YouTube channel, Lazarus Project. Morning, Joey Hayes. Our goal right now is to increase our YouTube following. That's our big goal right now. Thurston Howell III. How's Lovey doing? I'm in such slow motion right now. I did have a couple-hour nap earlier today, but it was one of those naps where you feel like you didn't gain anything from it. You know, I hate those. Lazarus Project, I would suggest reaching out to Gary from P3 Productions. He's usually the dude who takes care of all of our YouTube stuff. So I'm really going to push that off onto him because he's the guy who's taking care of all of that. Hey, Dave, Vinny gave you a thumb up your butt. Did you feel it? No. Nothing, man. Felt nothing. It's just good to have Vinny back in the chat room tonight. It's been a couple of weeks. I love that guy. Who do I think is the biggest bullshitter in ufology? Oh, that's a loaded question to get me in trouble while we're on record here. Trying to figure out how I can answer that. Okay, I will answer that this way. There are people who I do not like in this field. And when I say I don't like them, when I say I don't like someone, I never ever talk on a personal level because I don't know the person. Okay. And it's unfair to judge somebody by their work if you've never met the person. That being said, I will start off by saying this, and I've said this to over the years to a lot of people. I have a real problem with people who call themselves journalists or investigative journalists, and they've never worked in media before. I have a real problem with that. They don't know sourcing. They don't know how sources work. They don't know what breaking news is, but they've decided they're going to self-title themselves in order to gain notoriety and credibility in this field. I think that is dangerous. And in the UFO world, much like the Bigfoot world and the paranormal world, I think we see too much of these made-up titles that people create for themselves. All right. And I don't like it. I really don't like it. It's like people who do a podcast who call themselves a radio show, or they're doing a Facebook Live and calling what they do a radio show. It's not what they're doing. We do a radio show because we are on terrestrial radio and we are on digital radio stations. Okay. The term citizen journalist has to be used. Yeah, absolutely, gorgeous Larry. Okay. People in the field that I do not care for. I'm a little bit opposite than a lot of other people. I have no problem with people making money in this field, whether it's off their books or their YouTube channels or whatever. They get a television gig. I have no problem with people making money. People have to live, and you know what? I think it's a giant crock that people say you're not allowed to make money off of this field when, you know what? If you can make money off of something you love doing, you should do it. As long as you do it correctly, properly, and you're not pulling the wool over people's eyes. I'm not a fan of Secure Team 10. I was never a fan before Tyler got into trouble. And I hope he got some help. All right. But for people to defend and support someone who was violent against a loved one, I'm going to put allegedly in there. I have a real problem with supporting things like that. And at no point will we see, I don't care that Tyler has 2.3 million subscribers on YouTube. I won't bring him on this show. For the CGI videos, for the videos of him lying about police, lying about corrections officers, for the actions against a loved one. Don't like that stuff. And I do not condone his channel. I do not like, I'm not a fan of Dr. Stephen Greer. I've said this before, so I'll say it again publicly. The last time, Dr. Greer is one of the only people that I've ever rescinded a media interview request from. And that was because before he would entertain the thought of coming on this show, he asked me if I was going to be paying him. I've never paid for an interview in my life, even in my professional radio career when I worked at a station that was, holy cow, that's a big daddy long legs. I got to show you this. Come here, big guy. I don't know if you guys can see that. Let's put you outside. There you go. I don't pay for any interviews. I've never paid for an interview, and I've interviewed people from millionaires to billionaires over the years, and I just do not like it. I do not like it whatsoever. And then he asked me for my numbers, my breakdown, and then, which I gave him. I said no, that I would not provide a list of questions for him to study. That's not the way journalism is done. And there was a couple other things that he had asked for, which I just said, you know what, we're done. I have no intention of doing that. Yeah, Apollo 11 is very much on the internet. You just have to, not that you can believe everything on the internet, but there's enough information out there about his criminal record to go on and check that out. Like, look, everybody deserves a second chance and everything. And, but that's just not somebody I don't want to support. Why the Army or Navy don't stop the hybridization program of the Greys? They may not know. I don't know. I really do not know, my friend. Hold on 2 seconds here. Yeah, I think it's an absolute joke in this field that anybody is asking for money for an interview. I laugh at people like that. Like, back in my radio days, I mean, I interviewed Wayne Gretzky. I interviewed Mario Lemieux. I interviewed IndyCar drivers, professional golfers, NBA players. I interviewed billionaires who own teams, and they never asked me for money for an interview. So all of a sudden, I'm going to get asked by some UFO guy about a bloody interview to pay him? No, never happening. Never happening. Hell, there's millionaires that have been on this show, like Brandon Fugel, who've never asked me for a dime. Why, if I'm not paying Brandon Fugel, why would I pay someone else? Right? I mean, just the stupidity of this field. All right. I'm trying to see if there's any other questions here. Let me just get this started here. Hold on. Well, D Swagger will agree to disagree about that, but the video of Tyler being pulled over for drunk driving with his Jeep in a ditch and a mailbox that he ran over, and then denying he was had alcohol. You might want to check out that footage. Add to the fact his clickbait CGI videos that he was playing. Not cool. Sweet Donnie D, what's happening? Big J, what's happening? Yeah, Joey, anybody like that, send your request to bookings@spacedoutradio.com. Bookings@spacedoutradio.com. You are totally big trouble in Sin City. You're Amy Vegas. Oh, Baja Blast girl. Did I ever meet Stanton Friedman? No, I got the pleasure to interview him 3 times. I talked to him on the phone a couple of times. I was nervous interviewing him. 686. Totally nervous. But I never got to meet the man, no. We're dropping Andrew off at the Bunny Ranch. We party in Vegas. I know, Amy Vegas. Oh, it still trips me out. Never seen it before. Good night, Jenny. Oh, I'm not saying that he's a devil, D Swagger. I'm not saying that at all, but I am not about to support someone like that. Tyler Glockner is from Secure Team 10, the largest YouTube channel for UFOs. Oh, hey, Clam. Let me see if I can find this here. Oh, that one's going to charge me. Hold on. I'll show you something here. Right here, if you want to check that out. That goes back to December 21st, 2019. Right here. That's on the domestic violence database. So I don't support people like that. Oh, absolutely, Mr. Businessman. You're absolutely correct. I'm going to post this comment here. For whatever it's worth, at least note of the CGI. He did usually say, you, his audience, be the judge and decide for yourselves. Yeah, I mean, I agree with you on that. He did do that. I'm not going to say the guy didn't say that. He said that with every video. But if you are posting legitimate CGI and clickbaiting them off of them, I mean, that's not really cool. All right, whether you're telling your audience that or not, it's just not cool. So that's just a personal thing. It's nothing again. Like I said, I don't know Tyler. I don't know him at all. Okay. There's a big difference between the person and the business. The person, from what I've seen, okay, hasn't been very nice. The business, whether or not they allow the audience to give their own formal opinion or not, still provides clickbait videos of CGI, which is not healthy or moving the ball forward in ufology. Now, in a way, we all kind of do that. All right. We play stories without proof. All right. We take someone's word for it. You're right. We take someone's word that they've seen a Bigfoot or they've been on alien craft or they have contact with ETs or whatever. You know, we say the same thing. It's up to you whether or not you want to believe or not. But at least what we try and do here is we're not clickbaiting the subject. Right? Some may disagree with that. Others may fully agree with it. Absolutely, Larry. CGI videos are CGI videos are are terrible for the subject of ufology. They really are. If you ever need proof our leaders love us, just look at how they give us free meds. I paid $2.78 today for the meds for my partner. $2.78. I'm sure it'd have been about $1,000 in the US. Ufologist, how's it going? Yeah. I mean, Mr. Businessman, would I have a conversation with Tyler? Absolutely, I would. Not on the air. Tyler called me tomorrow and said, hey, let's have a chat. Let's have a chat. But he doesn't owe me anything, nor do I owe him anything. But I'm man enough to have that conversation. Prove me wrong. Don't give me a bunch of conspiracy theory that the police were after him or anything like that. I will tell you right now, this is one of the biggest lines of bullshit in this entire field, okay, is that people are being tracked. Guys, they don't need to track us anymore. They can track our phones. They can track our internet databases. They can track us online, track our profiles, track our everything. Okay? They can track everything. They don't need to track us. They don't use police brutality anymore or corrections officers' brutality. All right? My sister has been in corrections for 32 years. I know how that system works. He wasn't beaten up by guards unless he did something to provoke it. Okay? So that's the way that system works. Now, granted, I am talking Canada, not the United States, but I don't believe that. All right? So my big thing is this. For him to use the excuse that he was being tracked because of his YouTube channel having 2.3 million subscribers, no, that wasn't the case. That wasn't the case at all. And, it's convenient to try and keep it's a convenient story to try and keep his followers alive. All right. And yeah, that's all I'll say about that. That's all I will say. So I got a moth somewhere in here. I can hear it. Anyways. Oh, there it is. Come on down. Come say hello. Come say hello. Oh, he wants to hang out by the lights. Anyways, tomorrow night on the show, Katie Grabowski joins us. We're going to talk about UFOs, ETs, ET craft. She is an amazing researcher. She just spoke at Contact in the Desert, and you guys are going to absolutely love her and go from there. I got to get going to bed here because I'm pretty tired. And we can continue this conversation tomorrow night if you guys want. And we go from there. So I will talk to you tomorrow night, 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern. Thank you to Aussie Steve ×2, Andrew, Apollo, Magnus, Amy, J1, Vinster, Ed Clater, Michael, and Nicola for the amazing super chats tonight. Really do appreciate it. Appreciate each and every one of you veterans who listen to this show. We love our veterans around here. And of course, all the regulars in the chat rooms and who are sharing our show on a nightly basis. We really do appreciate you helping us grow each and every night. We'll talk to you all tomorrow night. Stay safe. Much love.